coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show on this Thursday, December the 5th, 2013. I'm David Knight, and I'll be filling in for Alex today. We have a packed show. Alex is going to be joining us later in the show, but we're also going to be joined by Anthony Gucciardi, Leanne McAdoo, and Gigi Erneta. We're going to be talking about a lot of breaking news today. You know, it's pretty appropriate that we have The Empire Strikes Back as our theme song here as we open up this hour, because the top story at Infowars.com right now is the Chinese state media is bragging of plans to establish a Death Star moon base. That's right. As Paul Watson says, it sounds like it's something out of The Onion, but they're actually serious about it. And it's the Chinese official state media that actually draws the analogy. They say that the experts in China are wargaming how the moon can be transformed into a deadly weapon like the Death Star in Star Wars. And the moon could hypothetically be used as a military battle station, and ballistic missiles could be launched against any military target on Earth. You know, we need to have Alex here so he could do a spot-on Darth Vader impression that he's able to do. But he will be with us later. But we're going to be talking about something else once he gets on. This is set against really the larger rise of Chinese military aggression that we've been seeing over these islands and other places. Every government wants to build up its importance, and the Chinese government is no different from the American government. They want to make themselves larger and bigger in the eyes of their people. And they'll go to war if they have to. They'll create a war if they have to. And that's something that we have to be on guard against our very own government as well as other governments. But there's also a big story today about Obama. And, you know, he's trying to pretend that he is the friend of the working man, friend of the working poor. We've got this breaking agenda this week of the minimum wage fight. And we've got fast food workers who are striking for increased wages. And they're talking about how the minimum wage hasn't been increased for a very, very long time. Well, stop and think about that. Is that really the problem? Isn't the problem the fact that people's purchasing power has gone down? That's why they're saying you need to have a rise in the minimum wage. And what about the Trans-Pacific Partnership? As Obama is saying that he's going to help the working poor by raising the minimum wage from $7 to $9, and now he's talking about $10. And of course, the people who are striking want $15 an hour minimum wage. As he's saying that he's going to raise that, he is secretly negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is going to do what has happened to this economy is that we all know jobs have been transferred out of this economy. And as JFK said, when a rising tide floats all boats, well, we don't have a rising tide. What we have are trade deals that have basically drained the river. And what he's doing now is secretly negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is going to do that to a far greater extent than we've ever seen that happen before. And he's going to put in all kinds of protections for big pharma, for big banks to make sure that they can speculate on derivatives without any kind of regulation from any country in the world. This is all being done in secret with 600 corporate lobbyists. Nobody who's elected from any government is allowed to do that. And the Obama administration has put through fast-track trade negotiation so that one person can secretly negotiate this without any oversight from elected representatives in the United States. And this is happening worldwide. So while he's doing this secretly under the table, he's now proclaiming that he's going to stand up for the working poor and he's going to raise the minimum wage. And of course, that's just going to set off more inflation. We see that the dollar, we're coming up to the 100th anniversary of the Federal Reserve. What's happened to the value of the dollar over the last 100 years? Well, it's lost about 99% of its value. And that's because of the Federal Reserve. It's because of government borrowing. And the Obama administration is bringing that on astronomically. So the root causes are there. Yet nobody is looking at the root causes. They simply see the superficial symptoms of what's happening. It's a real problem. It's a problem that's going to be shared by everybody throughout the economy. It's not something that's just going to affect the fast food industry. When we see high-paying jobs being moved out of this country, when we see the manufacturing base of this country being destroyed, when we see all wealth being transferred to the bankers, that's the fundamental issue. It's not the minimum wage. We're going to be right back. Stay Stay tuned. We've got a big show today.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfowarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfowarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfowarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfowarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfowarsShop.com. Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfowarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese when you visit InfowarsHealth.com. Be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex on this Thursday, December 5th, 2013. Alex will be joining us later in the show, as will Anthony Gucciardi. We'll be talking about how the government, other people in the government, are increasingly seeing Obama as a burgeoning dictator. There's opening talk on Capitol Hill. We heard it from someone from the Cato Institute. Usually these think tanks are very guarded. They're not throwing out over-the-top rhetoric about people being dictators, but we're hearing it from them. We're hearing it from constitutional law professors. And, of course, we're hearing it from the opposition. A lot of people are just going to dismiss this as partisan politics. There's a lot more to it than that. We've never heard these kind of charges being made before. And it's not just a matter of partisan politics. There are some real substantive issues, and we're going to be talking about that with Anthony Gucciardi as well as Alex Jones. I'm also going to be joined later in the show with McAdoo and Gigi Erneta. There's a lot happening today in the news. We've got a top story on the Drudge Report. The Chinese government is openly talking about making a Death Star on the moon. I guess we should have that clip from Star Wars where he says, look at the size of that moon. They say, that's no moon, Luke. You know, I mean, this is exactly what they're drawing the analogy, not us. They're saying that experts in China are wargaming how they could turn the moon into a deadly weapon like the Death Star in Star Wars to attack targets on the Earth. We also see the CIA, this is also coming up in the news, we'll be talking about this later, funding a project to assign a number to everyone in India. Sounds like something out of the book of Revelations, doesn't it? It also sounds like something that the CIA and DARPA would be involved in, and they are. Their venture capital company, In-Q-Tel, is backing this effort to do it in India. Now, just like the rest of our foreign policy, do you think they're going to leave it there? Or is it a test case? Like Iran, like Afghanistan. We see those weapons coming home. We're going to see that weapon, and make no mistake about it, numbering everybody in a country is a weaponized use of information systems processing power. And of course, the big news is the increase in minimum wage that Obama is talking about. He wants to portray himself as a friend of the working poor, in spite of what we've now learned about the effects of Obamacare. The rates of Obamacare. We see people losing hours, getting transferred to part-time jobs, dumbing down the definition of a full-time job as 40 hours to saying that if you work 30 hours or more, we're going to consider you to be a full-time employee for the purposes of Obamacare. And of course, individuals can't afford it, neither can companies. So people are having their hours cut. So if they're going to continue to work the same number of hours, many people in low income jobs are having to find multiple jobs to get the number of hours that they need. That's just one of the ways that they're being attacked. But of course, as all this is being done, as Obama is parading around pretending that he's the friend of the working poor and he's going to raise the minimum wage, ignoring the fact of why the minimum wage has lost its purchasing power, at the same time, he's secretly negotiating a trans-Pacific partnership deal, which is going to further gut the economy as these past trade deals like NAFTA have done. Remember Ross Perot talking about that huge sucking sound? Well, it's going to get a lot worse because the Trans-Pacific Partnership steps up all of this activity that's been happening, and it adds other things, like it adds protections for banks to engage in speculative derivatives, prohibits any country from stopping that with legislation. It asserts the controls through copyright that CISPA, SOPA, ACTA, PIPA, all these failed pieces of legislation were unable to do. They're going to try to do that through this secretive trade agreement. So it's going to affect our free speech rights. It's going to affect ownership, not just jobs, not just wealth creation, but it's going to affect ownership. It's going to essentially move us further down this path of establishing a neo-feudalism where a few people, a 1% of a 1%, own everything. And that's including intellectual property. And all the rest of us are slaveholders on the plantation. So that's coming up. And at the same time that's happening, he's also talking about, we've also got Democrats who are talking about raising the federal gas tax. So this is a quote from Obama's minimum wage speech that he delivered yesterday. He went into one of the poorest areas of Washington, D.C., they say, and he said the combined trends of increased inequality and decreasing mobility pose a fundamental threat to the American dream, our way of life, and what we stand for around the globe. And I would say absolutely true. I would agree with that. Except that everything that Obama is doing secretly, without people paying attention, certainly not the mainstream press, is increasing the inequality and decreasing the mobility. Now, of course, you could say the mobility is going to be decreased if they give you a 50% raise in the minimum wage, but then they double your gas fees, your gas taxes. I think that that's going to decrease your mobility. But of course, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about social mobility, being able to move up and down in the economic sphere. And that and inequality are what we're going to see happen with the Trans-Pacific Partnership and with these other things like Obamacare that are being put onto people. How are we going to have a healthy economy when many people are losing their insurance, being forced to buy mandated insurance that has a lot of sub-items that they don't need, and then they find that their insurance, their monthly insurance bill is the size of what their house payment used to be, or the size of a new car payment? That's going to have tremendous effect on everyone, on the entire economy. It's going to take everybody down. As I mentioned in the first segment, it was John Kennedy who said that a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, we're seeing the river actually drained by these economic policies that are in place with Obama and others. And we're also going to be taking your calls on these issues and others. I want to hear what you have to say about minimum wage and about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, especially because the people who are out there protesting about minimum wages, they really should be protesting the Trans-Pacific Partnership because that is so much more pervasive. That is the core. Or they should be protesting the Federal Reserve. They should be looking at the root causes of this. But people tend to get caught up in the shallowness of things. We've seen this. Max Kaiser was just talking about Jeremy Scahill's new documentary, Dirty Wars, and that was exactly the point he made. He said, Scahill's documentary goes around and tries to put a face on the suffering of war and does a good job of it because it's a well-produced film. But it's very superficial and very shallow, according to Max Kaiser. I haven't seen the film. I'm going on his review. He says it doesn't talk at all about the involvement of the banks. It doesn't talk at all about the involvement of the CIA. How can you not talk about the root causes of these wars and what is motivating these wars and really hope that you're going to have any kind of change? And furthermore, Jeremy Scahill kind of in this movie, Dirty Wars, according to Max Kaiser's review, he says that he essentially gives a pass to the whole idea, the whole purpose of the war by showing a lot of dangerous people that really, in his opinion, need to be killed. So he's really kind of a neocon leftist. And that's not really surprising when you look at who he's going to be going to work for, this new globalist billionaire, Pierre Omai. I can't pronounce his name. We'll just leave it at Pierre Omai because that's kind of the reaction of everyone in the press when they see this. They just get all glassy-eyed and start talking about how wonderful this guy is, this eBay billionaire, because I guess they think that they're going to get a job with him. But there is something that the government can do right. We shouldn't discount everything that they do because we learn now that Afghanistan has set yet another record production of poppy. That's right, things used for opium and heroin. You know, they had only 10% of the world's supply under the Taliban, but after we came in and helped them, we've increased the supply to 90% of the world's supply is coming out of Afghanistan. That was just last year they had a record. Now they've got another record, and I guess, no pun intended, they have a chart here on this article from, let's see what's the source on this, it's CNS News, and it says Afghanistan opium poppy cultivation reaches record high. No pun intended. That's the reason why we're there, and you got to understand when you look at these wars, as the Jeremy Scahill documentary does, to ignore the involvement of the CIA in the drug trade in Afghanistan, to ignore what's really happening there, to ignore what the bankers, how the bankers profit from all of this, that is a very shallow, superficial analysis. But of course, if you look at that, if you want to look at what's behind all of this, then people like Jeremy Scahill will accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist. That's what he's accused us of being. Now, we've also got this story that I just mentioned from the CIA and their venture capital fund. This is the In-Q-Tel fund. They, if you remember, helped to start up a lot of companies like, for instance, Palantir. Now, Palantir has a program that they created called PRISM. They're saying that PRISM is not the PRISM that we learned about through the Edward Snowden leaks, and yet its functions are exactly the same. And their focus is really on the military-industrial complex and in terms of looking at people's data and moving that data together and looking at trends and collating trends, collating what a person is doing on this part of the web and this part of their life and collating that with other things and building relational networks. They've also were involved in trying to take down Glenn Greenwald. That was also a leak that came out from WikiLeaks, and we saw that Palantir was actively plotting to essentially assassinate his character. That's a very dangerous thing because, as Jesse Ventura has pointed out, they first assassinate your character and then they assassinate you, and we've had no shortage of people leaving veiled threats that Glenn Greenwald ought to be assassinated. So it's very troubling when we see In-Q-Tel and DARPA getting involved in a lot of these projects that they're getting involved, a lot of dark research. And I think one of the dark things, we see the robots that they're creating, and we've talked to Dr. Noel Sharkey just recently about the killer robots, but consider how they're looking at you as their inventory. And consider not only how they look at everything that we do, but now in India, they're assigning a number to everyone there. And this company that's called MongoDB, they have a name for it. It's called Aadhaar. And they are going to assign a number to everyone in India. And do you think that's going to stop there, or are they going to bring it home? We're going to be right back. We've got lots more news to cover, and we're going to be talking to Alex Jones later in the show. Stay tuned.
Alex Jones here. I'll tell you about a long-time friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
By now, you may know that a Bitcoin is the first decentralized currency that's easily transferred from person to person over the internet. No bank needed. This means lower fees and accounts can never be frozen, limited, or closed. Plus, a large number of businesses and merchants already accept Bitcoins, and Bitcoins are easily exchanged for dollars, euros, and more. If you're interested in making money in the Bitcoin market right away, and by right away we mean start making money today, please visit us at cloudhashing.com. Cloudhashing.com is one of the fastest growing Bitcoin miners in the world, delivering the highest profits to people just like you. To get started, join us at cloudhashing.com and you will start mining Bitcoins right away and get paid daily. You heard correctly. You will receive payments every single day. And the best part, you do not need a computer or need any experience in mining Bitcoins. It's perfect for everyone. Learn more at cloudhashing.com. Just like it sounds, cloudhashing.com. Start making money today at cloudhashing.com.
Protecting your home with a security system is a must. But when it comes to protecting your family, your home, and belongings, there's no need to sign a long-term contract. Listen, there is some real scum in the alarm business, cashing in by locking you into long, punishing contracts. Not with Simply Safe Home Security. They're the good guys. You can trust Simply Safe to protect your family. Simply Safe was created by a Harvard Business School engineer, and it's revolutionary. You'll get 24-hour protection for just $14.99 a month. There are no hidden fees and no contracts. You'll save thousands. Plus, you're protected by their 100% money-back guarantee. Protect yourself against home invasions and break-ins. Order your Simply Safe system now and receive a wireless keychain remote, a $25 gift, free. So don't waste your time dealing with scum. Visit GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com.
I'm David Hall, founder of Diamond Gusset, where we are proud of our 100% grown and sewn American-made jeans. Whether you're out for dinner, working on the farm, or on the road, Diamond Gusset Jeans offers a full spectrum of style and sizes for any occasion. Our loyal customers enable us to continue sponsoring Liberty Media outlets. Use promo code LIBERTY to receive a 15% discount at DiamondLiberty.com. In Liberty, David Hall, Diamond Gusset Jean Company.
That's the sound of a .44 Magnum and Trauma Max, a high-tech hybrid Kevlar bulletproof vest from InfidelBodyArmor.com. Will stop it and most pistol rounds. Trauma Max is a major breakthrough in pistol-rated body armor, and prices start at just $170 per insert. More protection, more stopping power, more mobility, and it weighs less than 5 pounds. Get details at InfidelBodyArmor.com. That's INFIDEL-BodyArmor.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. Alex will be joining us later in the show, and so will Anthony Gucciardi, Leanne McAdoo, and Gigi Erneta. And we're going to be talking about the world waking up to Obama's dictatorship. And it's not just this dictatorship. We see that millennials are now waking up to seeing what's going on with the quote-unquote Affordable Health Care Act. They're seeing that it's a massive transfer of wealth from one generation to another. But of course, the biggest transfer of wealth is from the middle class of America to the insurance companies who wrote this. That's what Alex has been saying from the very beginning, that it was the insurance companies that were writing these regulations. And now we see how that's playing out. We see that the stock trends, as Adon Salazar wrote an article on Infowars showing that their stock prices had gone up by, on average, about a factor of 2 to 5, just like we see the many reports of the insurance rates that people are seeing going up by a factor of 2 to 5. They knew exactly what was going to happen with this. They knew exactly where this was headed, and it was built into their stock price. We can see how they're taking advantage of people's ignorance, even through the Obama minimum wage talks, at the same time that he's setting up this Trans-Pacific Partnership. At the same time, we've got Democrats saying that they want to stand for the working poor. We see them proposing a $27 billion tax increase on gasoline. Who's that going to affect the most? Of course, it's going to affect the people at the lowest level of pay jobs. They're the ones who have the highest percentage of their income in fuel taxes. And as part of that, we've got that on Infowars.com. It's Democrat tax per mile scheme surfaces again in Congress. So it's not just raising the taxes per gallon of gasoline by about 80-some-odd%. It's also going to be looking at a project to tax us by mile. After they've told everybody that they want you to get fuel-efficient cars, and we're paying a lot more for fuel-efficient cars, and a lot of people have invested money in fuel-efficient cars. We had the buyback of the clunkers because we had to get more fuel-efficient cars. Now they've completely going to change the rules of the game and tax us by mile. So those fuel-efficient cars are not going to be as, of course, they're going to not get rid of the other tax. So they'll still tax you on the gasoline that you use. They're just going to add this additional tax because they want to grind you into the dust. And that's necessary when all power and all wealth is being transferred from everyone to Washington and to the corporations that they work for. Take a look at this. Now, this is actually a story that was on NPR. And they were talking about how banks are charging some people for their early pay loan. They get kind of a payday loan. So they're out of money. They have to get an advance on their paycheck. They're getting paid, they're getting charged 180% interest rates in some cases. And they had a hearing this summer, and they asked a banking representative who represents 6 banks, and they said, do you think it's appropriate for some of the most respected banking names to be making 200% plus off of some of their customers? And he said, well, firstly, I don't accept that it's 200% because it's a line of credit. No, wait a minute. It's still 200%, whether you call it a line of credit or you call it something else. He says, it's not a loan, it's a line of credit. If we were charging 200% for a home mortgage, I'm with you, that's too much. But this is not a loan, it's a line of credit. Come on. Come on, that's semantics. That's taking advantage of people's ignorance. That's exactly what Obama is doing with this minimum wage talk. Okay, he's going out and telling people, don't worry, we're going to raise you from $7 to $10 an hour, and everything's going to be just fine. But ignoring why you need that raise, why you have seen the value, the purchasing power of your dollar go down, ignoring what he's doing in terms of gutting the economy with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, doing that in secret. I'm old enough to remember when there were usury laws in this country. It used to be against the law for banks to charge more than 10%. Only the mafia, loan sharks, would charge people more than 10%. Here you've got banks charging people for paycheck advances, charging them 200%. I don't think the mafia did that 40 years ago. But they're not as smart as these bankers because they can get away with it. They can go to Congress and they can say, it's not a loan, it's a line of credit. It's not a mortgage, it's a line of credit. So, you know, they play with these semantics. And yet at the same time, we see that the banking regulations from Chris Dodd and Barney Frank are shutting down all of the smaller banks that are competitors to these too big to fail, too big to jail banks that are running everything. We have now, according to this article from, it's a lot of people have talked about this. This particular one is from personalliberty.com. And they quote and they say, the number of banks in the U.S. is at its lowest level since the Great Depression due to a combination of regulatory hurdles that are forcing many community banks out of business. And we see that larger press outlets are saying, well, this is actually a good thing because it makes us more efficient. You know, that was the line of Rockefeller, that he hated competition because competition was essentially a sin. They don't want competition. They want to shut down all the local banks, and they want to shut down all the mom and pop stores and have only the largest ones.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
What I tell people is that you do have time. We talk about natural disasters, the health environment. We talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states, most people won't even be ready, won't be able to get out of town because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy. This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Available only at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here. And I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
Mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Hey, you White House!
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. And we're going to be joined with Alex and Anthony Gucciardi later in the show. We're going to be talking about how the world is increasingly seeing Obama as a dictator. Look at some of the trends that are happening here. Now, we just had Michael Cannon from the Cato Institute come out and talk about how we're facing a real danger of violent revolution if people understand that the government feels like they no longer need to obey the law. Remember the Constitution they took an oath to? That's what gives them their authority to govern. And if they ignore the Constitution, ignore the laws, and just do whatever they please, then they are essentially no different than a foreign invader. But to hear the Cato Institute talking about that is pretty amazing. And now we've got a couple of more articles. We've got an article on Infowars.com. This is a congressman fears that Obama could suspend election laws. This is Representative Trey Gowdy out of South Carolina. And this is what he says. He says, if the president can fail to enforce immigration laws, can the president likewise fail to enforce election laws? In other words, if he can arbitrarily ignore immigration laws, and that's just one category of laws that he's ignored, then can't he just ignore the election laws as well? If he can send troops into Libya without getting a congressional declaration, can't he just suspend the election laws? If he can get his signature piece of legislation like Obamacare passed, and then he can arbitrarily say, well, I'm going to extend the deadline for this class of company, I'm going to extend the deadline for individuals, is that any different than a dictator? A dictator is somebody who essentially, if you look at the meaning of the word, right, it comes out of dictate or speak. And so essentially a dictator is someone for whom the law is in his mouth. There is no external written controlling legal authority, as Al Gore famously said one time. There is no controlling legal authority here. That's about the best description of Washington I've ever heard. But Obama has taken it to all new levels, just saying we're not going to enforce the immigration laws. And now we have and we'll talk about this in detail with Anthony and with Alex, but we've got a law professor from George Washington University, Jonathan Turley, and he's saying that the danger is quite severe. We see a concentration of power in every single branch. You know, Rand Paul has talked about this. He's come up with a law that says we're going to require I'm sure it won't get passed, but it would require the Congress to, read the laws. It would require them to do one subject at a time, and they would require them to actually write the laws. Because right now what they do is they pass this along to bureaucracies. As Nancy Pelosi said, we have to pass the law so we can see what's in it. And so they pass this along to the bureaucracies, and they're able to put the details in. And of course, that's where the devil lies, is in those details. So they really don't know where those details are going to be. They really don't know what's in it. And they want the bureaucracy to fill in those details, because if they were to fill in the details, then they would have to take the blame for what happens. And if it's really bad, they can pretend that they're the saviors. They can ride in on the white horse and they can say, we're going to roll back this evil bureaucracy, whether it's the EPA or the IRS or some other group. They can let the bureaucracy take the fall for it rather than Congress, and Congress can pretend like they're the saviors. We see that happening with Representative Sensenbrenner now. Here's a guy who is facing re-election and the wrath of voters who are angry about what we've learned about the NSA through the Snowden leaks. And of course, it didn't start with the Snowden leaks. As Paul Joseph Watson has pointed out, this has been going on since the 90s. With Echelon, we knew about it extensively at that point in time. Of course, it had been happening earlier even than that. After September 11th and the passage of the Patriot Act, we had 4 whistleblowers within the NSA, people like Benny and Drake. They went to the mat to stop this stuff. They knew that it was going broad. They knew that they were moving from what was called Thin Thread to another system that was called Trailblazer, that was going to be spying domestically, not just on foreign citizens, but going to be used to collect information on American citizens. So they followed all of the whistleblower etiquette and stayed within the system. And one of them was charged with multiple felonies and persecuted by the Justice Department for quite some time before he was exonerated. That was Drake. But all of that was out there. And yet we see that it's still surfacing. Nothing is being done about this. And we now see people like Sensenbrenner coming back and saying, well, even though he brought up the Patriot Act, he wants to come back and say, I'm going to rein in the government. That's exactly what they do. Obama is supposedly going to be helping us because he's going to give us more time before the quote-unquote Affordable Health Care Act bankrupts everybody by extending the deadlines. But he won't do the fundamental reform, which is to basically gut the thing and have something that is actually a free market, which we didn't have in healthcare before. Actually expanding people's choice, actually expanding people's ability to purchase and to save money through medical savings accounts, through information about who charges how much, information about what their success rate is at a given hospital or a given doctor. But they hide these things from us, just as they're hiding the real economic consequences. And just before the break, I was talking about how the number of banks are dramatically shrinking. Now, this is a report that came out. This one is from the Wall Street Journal. It said the number of banks has fallen below 7,000 for the first time since they began keeping track of it in 1934, since the Great Depression. If you watch the Drudge Report, you've seen for a long time that he'll put up 146 banks closed this quarter or 160 closed that quarter. the number of small lending institutions has been shrinking drastically. So that's down from a peak of 18,000 financial institutions. We're now down to below 7,000. So we've lost 2/3 of the banks. Is that a problem? Yeah, it is. Because remember when we had the bailout, it was because the banks were too big to fail. Remember when we had money laundering charges and other things brought up, other crimes brought up against HSBC and UBS? We were told by the Holder Department of Justice this year that they were too big to jail. He didn't put any major fines. They got a minor hand slap in terms of fines. Didn't pull their charter, even though these are foreign banks. None of the officers went to jail, as anybody else would for these kind of laundering charges. So when you have banks that are too big to fail, too big to jail, that is a big problem. And yet, we see this from this Wall Street Journal article. They said the consolidation could help alleviate concerns that an abundance of U.S. banks leads to difficulties in oversight or a less efficient financial system. Come on. Monopolies aren't efficient except for the person who owns the monopoly. That's what Rockefeller wanted. That's what J.P. Morgan wanted. That's exactly what they're getting. And it's not working out very well for the rest of the country because the big banks and the 1% of the 1% are running everything here. This is another quote from the article. There's no reason why we need many banks except if those smaller banks have a much lower return on, especially if those smaller banks have a much lower return on capital. Well, you know why they have a lower return on capital? Because they're not charging people 200% interest rate on payday loans. They're not ripping people off like the big banks. There's talk now that they're going to charge people for depositing money. And we've seen various schemes like that from Bank of America, from J.P. Morgan or Chase, Morgan Chase. That's what the banks do when they get control. And that's a major part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement that is being worked on. And, of course, Obama wants to have that done by the end of the year, just like he wants to have this increase in minimum wage done. So as he gives with one hand a little bit to some people that think that he's on their side and in their court, he is gutting the system with the other hand secretly and under the table. Now, we've got a story here that completely changed the direction that we're going from banks to looking at what's happening with the police state. And this is something that I saw really, really disturb me. This is a 14-year-old who was tasered in the face. Absolutely amazing pictures. If you can see this, it's absolutely amazing. Both eyes are blackened and swollen. He's got contusions all over his face. It's horrible. He was shoplifting $31.93 worth of merchandise from a Walmart. Now, he was handcuffed, and he tried to run away, and they tasered him in the face while handcuffed. And his mother was told that she could not see him for quite some time. It says the extensive lacerations, the bruising, and black eyes were allegedly the result of him having been tasered and fallen to the ground on the pavement. Except if you look at his face, both sides of his face are beaten up. His mother believes that he was beaten while handcuffed. But to taser a child in the face like that, I mean, can't they run him down? I mean, are they that out of shape? If they're that out of shape, why are they in the police department? But listen to the excuse that they gave here. They said the boy probably turned around to see if the officer was chasing him when the barb caught his cheek, said the district attorney. With handcuffs, there was nothing to break his fall as his legs gave out. Well, that's what happens when you taser somebody. They fall straight to the ground. We've got another 17-year-old in Bastrop here just outside of Austin who was tasered because he was standing in the way of a cop who wanted to get to a fight between two other people, two girls who were fighting, and just tasered this kid in the back, according to the witnesses who were there. And, of course, he went down like a rock, hit his head on the concrete, and is in a coma and was in critical condition. I'm not sure what the latest on that case is. That was the end of last week, the case of that, and we had students who walked out and protest there at the school. This is what's happening everywhere. And so the question to you is, and I'm going to take some of your calls here, the question is, what are we going to do to rein in this out-of-control police state? How do we get that back? Are some of you going to run for office and institute some reforms? Because one of the things that never happens is there's never any accountability on these police brutality cases. We always see that these people are put on paid leave. because of the unions and because of the government's attitude anymore, nothing ever happens to the officers themselves. They're not fired. They're not personally held responsible for this. At the very least, can't we cut the budget of the police department instead of putting that burden on the taxpayers when they injure somebody like this child excessively? Instead of letting the police department just go on and buy another gigantic piece of military hardware from Homeland Security, can't we have them take the fine to compensate this victim out of their budget at the very least if we can't find the officers, if we can't hold them responsible and move them out of the department? So the problem is when you tolerate that, you're sending a message to other officers that it's okay to do this. And at some point, that has to stop. And if your people in your local city council and mayor won't do that, maybe you need to run for office and do something about it yourself. Let's take a call. We've got Eddie from Arizona. Eddie, what's on your mind today?
Yes, I just wanted to give a solution out there for your research staff to do, or info warriors in general. I know the book Superclass said there were 6,000 people who ran the minions for the 120 families. I would like all their names known and faces published with a blurb about what they do and who they are. We can kind of turn this around on its head like a fight club. They all go out to eat. They all have masseuses. They all have private security. And I think if everyone knew their involvement in the basic destruction of our planet, and if we could actually get their names and faces out there, kind of like the 52 cards in Iraq, the most wanted, not to have a bloody revolution, not to go killing police and people kill each other, that's crazy. But we need to let these little tiny group of people know, we know who you are, we know what you look like, and kind of turn this thing on its head.
Well, that's why it's very important. I agree. That's why it's very important to have something like WikiLeaks. That's why it's very important to have leaks like we see from Edward Snowden. They're portraying him as if he was a criminal and as if he was harming our national security. What harms our national security is when our government acts as criminals. And so when you see these kind of leaks from WikiLeaks, you see these leaks from Ed Snowden, that's when we see what's really going on behind the scenes. We have people who will leak the proceedings of the Bilderberg group, and we know now that that was something that was set up in its initial creation. They were talking about creating the EU and the European Union, and now we see these things being consolidated through the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We have a lot of information. The problem is that people are caught up in the superficialities of life, just like they're caught up in the minimum wage, and they don't see what's really happening underneath it. Let's talk to, thanks Eddie in Arizona, let's talk to Kyle in Canada. Kyle, what's on your mind?
How are you?
Doing good. What's up?
Just first want to say, God bless you and Alex. You guys do a great job. It's absolutely incredible what you guys do every day.
Well,
I just wanted to mention the economic collapse and that's going to happen in the States and undoubtedly affect Canada. Is going to usher in the mark of the beast system. Basically, they already pretty much have the mark of the beast system in place. I don't know if they have it in the States like they do in Canada, but if you pay with a pay pass in Canada, a credit card or a debit card, it operates on the same RFID frequency that they're going to use in the chip that's going to go in your hand or your head. It's unbelievable. Basically, it's just unbelievable what they've set up.
Well, did you hear the article that I was talking about earlier, where the CIA helped to fund this project in India that's assigning a number to every person in India?
I haven't heard about that. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's being funded by the CIA. So you got to ask yourself, why is the CIA interested in inventorying the people of India? Well, of course, it's because they're going to do it to the people of America, and we see this happening in multiple fronts. That's the other thing that you see happening is they don't attack in just one area. They will attack with multiple fronts on something like identifying people with RFID, numbering them. That is something that's going to come at us from multiple ways. They never just have one strategy. They always have multiple strategies. Thank you very much, Kyle in Canada. Let's go to Ryan in Texas. Ryan, what's on your mind?
Lots on my mind, actually, sir. But one of the main things I wanted to touch up on was you mentioned how Obama wants to shift the minimum wage equation.
Yes.
whenever I was in elementary school, I'm sorry, I'm an accountant student at A&M Kingsville, but whenever I was in elementary school, our teachers taught us how to do proportional fractions. For example, if gas is worth $3 per gallon now, you put the denominator as, what is minimum wage right now, $7.25, I believe? Okay, so that's $3 over $7.25 equals to X over whatever the new proposed minimum wage is, cross multiply, divide, and you will see the paradigmatic equation shift based upon the minimum wage increase. And most people aren't able to process that type of...
Well, yeah, you see that whenever they put out a sales tax, they always do that. I remember, you know, you can have a sales tax of 6%, and they're going to change that from 6 to 7%. What they tell everybody, or the government tells everybody, and the media is their willing partner in this, they say, well, we're going to have a 1 penny increase in the sales tax. And it's like, no, you're not. You're taking a 6% tax rate and you're changing it to a 7% tax rate. That's 1/6. Okay, that's a 17% increase. It's not a 1 penny increase. They lie to people and they prey on people's ignorance. Just like I was talking about earlier, where they, with extra payday loans, they charge people over 200%. And then when you call them on it, they say, oh, that's not usury. That's not a loan. That's a line of credit. We're going to be right back with your calls. We're going to be talking about the minimum wage, and we're going to be talking about Obama as a burgeoning dictator. Stay tuned.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Big business has discovered the preparedness market, and that makes it difficult to know where to go and who to trust. MyPatriotSupply.com is owned and operated by patriots just like you. Has the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more. MyPatriotSupply.com has old-fashioned values and the absolute best customer service in the industry. Look for the deal of the day. Unique, affordable survival supplies that fit anyone's budget. Get same-day shipping on all orders and free shipping on orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, or visit MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Shop with a name you know and a name you can trust. Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com.
When you need it the most, will your generator, power equipment, or vehicle be ready? Gas and diesel fuels go bad quickly when stored, and more than half of generator failures during disasters occur as a result of expired fuel. PRI fuel stabilizers keep your fuel fresh for when you need it most. Nuclear power stations, emergency service providers, and ships at sea rely on PRI fuel stabilizers. And you can too. Call 888-776-9373 or visit PRIproducts.com to find the dealer nearest you.
Yes, family and friends are gathering to give gifts and wish health and security. But why not enhance cell phone and wireless device security all year with Block It Pocket? A family-owned American business, we now have 2 spectacular holiday specials. Find them now at our new website, blockitpocket.com, or call 888-315-9618. Hurry, holiday special ends Christmas Day. Give the gift of security from blockitpocket.com, wishing you health, freedom, and liberty.
Your own personal Jesus.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex. I'm going to be joined later in the show with Alex and with Anthony Gucciardi, and we're going to be talking about Obama as dictator. That's increasingly how he's being seen in Washington, and it's much more than just partisan politics. There's some real substance to this. There's a real departure from the rule of law, and there's a tremendous concentration of power, and we see an exponential rise in the number of executive orders. So we're going to be talking about that in the third hour with Alex and Anthony Gucciardi. And we're going to be joined in the next hour with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta, also on the staff of the Nightly News. That's where you'll normally find me. We have Prison Planet TV. This is a good time of the year to sign up for Prison Planet TV and support that. Every night through the week, we have a news broadcast there. It's something that you can share with friends and family. Up to 10 people can listen to that at the same time, and it helps to support our operation. That's what funds it. It's a great way to get the word out, and you'll find on Prison Planet TV, as a subscriber, you'll have access in HD quality to all of Alex's documentaries that he produces are there. So it's a great way to wake people up. It's something that you can pass around as a gift this time of year. Now, also, I want to let you know that we have Survival Shield is now back in stock. That's the nascent iodine. You may not realize that it used to be 40 years ago that people got at least 725 micrograms of iodine on average a day just through baked goods, because they used to use iodine in the processing of baked goods. They took that out. And you know what they did? They substituted it with bromides, which are harmful to your health. So there's a deficiency for most people. Unless you eat a lot of seaweed, a lot of seafood, you don't get very much iodine. It's essential for brain health. A lot of people in the office who take this can actually feel the effect, feel it in their pineal gland. I don't get any feel out of coffee, though. So I'm not typical of most people. I can have multiple canisters of coffee and I don't feel it. But I know the importance of iodine. And just like any other supplement, I know that I'm not getting, as something that I need to supplement my diet with, I'm not getting enough of it in my regular diet. The American diet has changed quite a bit in the last several decades. And if you're aware of what's going on with it, you're aware of your need to supplement. And you can pick that up right now. It helps also to support our operation. It's an important thing. It's InfoWarsLife.com. You can find our health products that are being developed there, as well as ProPure Filter is now still has a 20% discount on it at Water20. I think you can still get that offer. That's on the website there at InfoWarsStore.com. Now, we were talking just before the break about the effect of minimum wage. And, of course, it's a very important thing because, according to statistics, 70% more college grads are earning minimum wage than a decade ago. And the U.S. economy, even though it's recovered 5.7 million jobs out of the 8.7 million jobs that were lost, 60% of all those jobs have been at the low-income wage. So if people lose a high-paying job in a factory, and they now get another job at a low-paying fast food industry, as far as the government's concerned, that's not a problem because we're just looking at the jobs, right? But it is a big problem because we see our country being transformed from a manufacturing society to a service economy. And we were told for a long time that was going to be great because we weren't going to have the pollution issues. We're going to push those off onto China and the third world. And of course, we see that they have tremendous pollution there because there's no laws protecting the people who live there. They've got them working in unbelievable slave conditions. But that's exactly what they wanted. They took our high-paying manufacturing jobs that gave us kind of a self-sufficiency in our economy, exported them, and they're going to be doing that in spades with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But don't pay attention to that. Let's focus on the minimum wage because Obama's going to help you there. We're going to be right back, and we're talking about that a little bit more in detail with callers. Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. I'm going to be joined at the bottom of the hour with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta. We're going to be talking about the police state. And we just had this article that I mentioned about a 14-year-old boy being tasered in the face while handcuffed by police. His crime? $31.93 shoplifted from Walmart. I mean, we're getting into the territory of Les Miserables. You know, we're taking people. We had a guy arrested by the school because he hooked up his electric car without asking anybody and got 5 cents worth of electricity. So they arrested him. The police state is out of control in America. And we can't just look at these superficial aspects of it, the brutality that we see of it, or children getting tasered in the face instead of being talked to or chased down or whatever. We've got to look at what's underneath this. And part of what's underneath this, of course, is the money that is being made out of the prison industrial complex. We all know that there was a massive prison program that was built up in the wake of Reagan's war on drugs. As he shifted from going after the suppliers to the end users, as his Attorney General Ed Meese put in the mandatory minimums, they started locking so many people up. And with the mandatory minimums, judges had no discretion as to who they could let out. So they were letting out violent criminals so they could keep people who were peaceful marijuana users who were growing marijuana in their closet, not doing anything to anybody outside of their own little world where they're operating, locking these people up for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years with mandatory minimums based on the quantity of marijuana that they discovered in their houses. So they went on this massive prison building program. And of course, the prison bed guarantees we see in many cases has been reported on by, if you will, mainstream media even talks about this. Huffington Post, 70% occupancy guarantees in California. Many other contracts with private prison companies have language that mandates that they get at least a 90% prison beds be filled. And so when those things are not filled, of course, they get to take that money out on the states. They have to make those guarantees. So there's a massive incentive to put people in prison. So just like we were talking about before, if Jeremy Scahill goes out and does a documentary on the dirty war, and he talks about the death and the suffering of our foreign policy, but he ignores the root cause of it, the profits behind it. He ignores that the CIA is getting record high profits from the drug trade in Afghanistan. Hit a new record this year, 2013, a bumper crop of opium products for heroin. So if they ignore that sort of thing, if they ignore what's really driving that, if we ignore the fact that we have these private prisons that are demanding that people be locked up for nonsense, we're going to continue to see 14-year-olds tasered in the face. We're going to continue to see people thrown in jail for, quote-unquote, stealing 5 cents worth of electricity. It's absolutely amazing. But, of course, people are not looking at what's behind things. That's what we've been talking about with the minimum wage. It's nothing but a head fake. And we've been taking some of your calls on that. Real quickly, let's go to Frank in Michigan. He's been holding for a while. Frank?
Greetings and salutations, David. It's an honor to speak to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
What's on? Well, you were talking about the police state, and, real quick here, I was in federal prison. I'm not a horrible person. I was actually a member of the Michigan militia when Oklahoma happened. They raided my house and found a .22 rifle locked up in my gun cabinet, and I had to do federal prison time. I lost all my gun rights, and it was really all technicality stuff. But anyway, in federal prison, they have a faction called Unicorn. And there is an army of prisoners building stuff, signs, all for local municipalities and all this stuff. So there is a gigantic profiteering going on in the prison system.
Yes.
I was locked up with guys who were 70 years old getting 10 years for pulling in a ton too many eel off the, out of Watertown, New York, out of the bay there. Stuff like that. And us as listeners, as citizens of the United States of America, we have this information. And and I know, we go out there and we try to tell people stuff, and they look at us like kooks. So a lot of the listeners and a lot of the people who are involved in the resistance here, it's alive and well here in Michigan. A lot of liberty lovers.
Well, thanks for letting us know.
Away from telling other people. We got to tell people. We can't be scared.
We got a hard break. Hang on, Frank. We'll be right back.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Renowned author and expert, Joel Skousen.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
What I tell people is that you do have time. We talk about natural disasters, the health environment. We talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states, most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy. This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Available only at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and as we hear the Empire Strikes Back, one of our top stories that's on Drudge today is the Chinese state media is bragging of plans to establish a Death Star moon base. We can't make this stuff up, folks. We don't need to anyway. Under the headline, PLA dreams of turning the moon into a Death Star. This is a quote from the Chinese officials. They say the moon could be transformed into a deadly weapon like the Death Star in Star Wars. Things just get more and more bizarre. But I wanted to keep Frank from Michigan on the line. We just took his call in the last segment. I know a lot of people are getting a news segment in the first 5 minutes. And Frank was telling us about his experience in prison and how they were using prisons for slave labor. Now, that's nothing new to our listeners. Alex has talked about that many times. But I wanted people to hear somebody who's actually been there and done that and seen it. Frank, what were they building at the prison where you were working? And tell us a little bit about what kind of wages people were getting paid there.
They were getting paid, the top wage was 25 cents an hour, and that was at McKean Federal Prison in Pennsylvania. And they had us making furniture, stop signs. This is a giant industry. They have a welding shop. They have a metal manufacturing shop, and each federal prison has a Unicor, and that's the name of the segment of the prison that they have you doing this for. And it's a huge industry. It is absolutely unbelievable, and it is slave labor. And that was years ago. It's been 15 years now, and now when we talk about FEMA camps and the such and the setting up of things like that,
yes,
if you look at a minimum security federal prison, you're looking at a FEMA camp in my mind. I mean, it was an unbelievable industry.
Yeah, and paying people 25 cents an hour. So there you go. I mean, we want to talk about minimum wage, but let's take a look at this prison thing. Now, according to this article here from Huffington Post, now they do put out some of the facts correctly. They say that there is a prison bed guarantees that range between minimums of 70% and going up to 90%. So that's a guarantee. And if they don't fill the prisons, then the private prisons will charge the state. And they sum this up by saying such requirements create an incentive for policymakers to focus on filling empty prison beds. Of course, it's about money. See, it's about them not having to pay extra money to these private prisons, although they're paying them a lot per prisoner. And then the prisons, the Unicor, as Frank just mentioned, is paying the prisoners 25 cents an hour to work as slave wages. And we like to think about the fact that we've got better working conditions here. We've got a minimum wage, and we're somehow maybe better off than the people who are in Foxconn. But look at the prisons. We've got prison labor. We've got slave labor in the U.S. And this is how they break, even though they give you the facts in the Huffington Post article, they break this down. They say private prison corporations emerged in the 1980s and 90s at a time when crime rates were soaring and states were scrambling to keep up with surging prison populations. I'm sorry. It wasn't that the crime rates were soaring. It wasn't that we were facing dangerous crime. The crime rates were soaring because they redefined what crimes were. They took victimless crimes, like people growing marijuana in their closet, and they made that a mandatory minimum, which meant that things that you and I would think of as real crime, like people who were rapists or violent criminals, would be turned out into the street so they could lock up these people who were passively growing marijuana in their closet. That was what the quote-unquote crime rates were soaring in the 1980s and 1990s. I'm surprised they wouldn't point that out. This is Chris Kirkham, and this was back in September this year when we did this article. But that's exactly what Frank is talking about, how we've got prison labor here, and nobody sees that. There's very few stories that are done on that by the mainstream media. Of course, everybody's going to be talking about Obama's compassion for the poor, the working poor, and how he's going to raise minimum wages, but they don't talk about the reality of what's hidden in this country. Aaron in Nevada, what have you, are you there? Oh, he did. Okay. Let's go to, let's see, what's our next person here? Get my glasses on. Mark in Texas. Hey, Mark, are you there?
Yeah, hi, David.
What's on your mind?
A couple of things. First of all, about as far as the police state goes, one thing I think we should really start doing is we start to drastically cut the police forces in this country and start replacing them with volunteers and, people doing kind of like a jury duty type of deal and, and maybe reserves and all that. And start taking away some of that power. For one thing, why does a police officer, especially in Texas, where pretty much the population is armed, prepared to defend themselves, why do you need police officers to have off-duty authority? They don't need it. They shouldn't have it. It actually takes away from the, we're equal under the law. There's no need for it. And as far as states like New York or maybe New Jersey, and a lot of California now, people got to demand their Second Amendment rights, and then they won't have to count on such large police forces, and powerful police forces in the first place.
Well, I agree, but that's something that's very different than what the federal government wants, because the federal government is pushing this buildup. They're pushing the fusion centers. They're pushing the militarization of the police, bringing the weapon systems and the vehicles that we've used against urban populations in Iraq and Afghanistan, bringing those home and encouraging the police to not only hire more police, but even more troubling is the mindset that they're encouraging in the police. And this is very much visible when the Infowars crew went with Alex up to Dallas at the protest of the shutting down of the First Amendment around the JFK assassination up there. You could see the attitude of the police there, and you could see that these police who came out and immediately started shoving and punching people without giving them any warning after the other police had let them into the area and they were waiting to proceed to the next checkpoint. These cops come out of the Homeland Security van that was there. You can see it in the video. They come out of there. So these are the Dallas sheriffs who are coming out of Homeland Security. It's a perfect metaphor for what we see happening in reality throughout the country, and that is the federal government changing their rules of engagement, if you will, with the civilians. We can even talk about it in that respect. They call people civilians as if they're military. Everything that they do is on a military model. So let's go to Howie in Pennsylvania. Howie?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing good. How you doing, Howie?
I gotta tell you, everybody loves when you host the show, man. But man, I gotta tell you something. I watched a VH1 special. It was called "The Fabulous Life of Billionaires." My God, it made me sick to my stomach, man.
Yeah, we
really are screwed. I mean, with the mega yachts and the huge palaces and everything. I mean, they are dug in. I mean, there's no way to remove them. I mean, some of them, they're mega yachts. They got their own submarines and bulletproof windows and anti-missile defenses on it and everything. I mean, what do you do, man?
Well, you know, when I look at these protests in the Ukraine, and there's an article on Infowars, mass unrest in Ukraine amid supposed tug-of-war between the EU and Russia. Now, when you look at these videos of what's happening with the police protests, what I was pretty amazed to see was a massive, massive group of protesters coming up to a police barricade, a police line, and they had some concrete barricades there. And the protesters had a bulldozer. And they were very slowly, it wasn't a violent attack on the police, but they were very slowly pushing the police and pushing the barricades back, and the police were restrained by that. Now, is it because the police are just good guys? I mean, you know, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, they'd just be shooting everybody in sight if this was America. They would be handling it. The American government in a situation like that would react the same way that the Chinese government did in Tiananmen Square, in my opinion. I think we've gotten to that point in the United States now. But when you see a massive group of people like that, and I can't say that under all circumstances, because when we went down to the protest in the Alamo, when we had about 1,000 people down there with rifles slung over their shoulders, even though most of those rifles, if not all those rifles, were unloaded, the police kept their distance, and they just watched to make sure that nothing was going to happen. And so they didn't get in anybody's face, they didn't harm anybody down there until most of the people were left. And then the last few people that were there, the police came up to them and started harassing them, which is why we had that rally there in the first place. That's why Texas Open Carry sponsored that rally along with other groups, was because when people are by themselves, the police, because there's so many of them and because they feel empowered, they will threaten people's basic fundamentals and fundamental liberties and their rights. But when you have a massive group of people, just like we saw in the Ukraine, the police will keep their distance in most cases. And we need to educate the police. That's why it's a very important project that the Oath Keepers have, to educate the police, to educate the military, so that there isn't some kind of a violent confrontation. You know, things were brought down peacefully in East Germany when the police there decided that they weren't going to shoot people who were crossing over the arbitrary fence between East and West Berlin. That was the beginning of the end of that tyranny there with the Stasi. And we can end it here in America if people will stand together and stand up to this. But the first thing is people have to understand that there is an issue. And right now, I just don't see that happening. Most people are not really aware of this except in isolated incidents, like this 14-year-old who was tasered in the face. And we're going to be talking to Gigi Erneta and Leanne McAdoo at the bottom of the hour about this. But let's go to Bob in Florida. Bob? Hey, Bob?
Yes, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, sorry about that.
That's
I have
all right.
some information for you. I'm in the healthcare industry. I'm a healthcare vendor, and there's a company called RepTrax, which is the top vendor credentialing company that's installed in 5,000 hospitals and has 400,000 registered users across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And this company is owned by a Chinese security company called BTC Electronics Corporation. And they make all sorts of security equipment, video cameras, surveillance equipment. And they're in all the hospitals. They require all vendors to provide some of their medical records, require vaccinations, and they're essentially tracking all vendors coming in and outside the hospitals.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, hang on. We're going to come right back after the break. We'll be back with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta at the bottom of the hour.
Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
Did you know that organic sulfur can cleanse and defend your body against the poisons we're exposed to each day? Organic sulfur crystals from sulfurdefense.com help by forcing oxygen and nutrition into your cells while eliminating heavy metals, contaminants, and damaging radiation. Defend yourself and family from toxic assault with one of the most critical and essential minerals available today. Order online at sulfurdefense.com. That's sulfurdefense.com. Or call 800-593-6273.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
There's a reason why the U.S. government is conducting emergency drills simulating the collapse of the U.S. electrical grid. Northeast Corridor offline. They're getting prepared. Will you be prepared when it shuts down?
A massive power outage. The cyber Pearl Harbor.
The evacuation procedures are working.
The Grid Eraser and Grid Eraser Maximus portable solar generators. Available exclusively on offthegrid.com. The strongest, longest-lasting solar generators. Dollar for dollar, watt for watt, on the market. Double the size and output, but not double the price. Oh yeah, one more thing. You only pay $10 for shipping for the Grid Eraser and Grid Eraser Maximus at offthegrid.com. Actually, shipping is just $10 for any order at offthegrid.com. Before you spend your hard-earned cash on a solar generator, do yourself a favor and check out the Grid Eraser and Grid Eraser Maximus at offthegrid.com. Solar generators with an attitude.
What looks good under your Christmas tree and tastes even better? Big Berkey water filters. Yes, the gift of clean water. A gift that provides a great foundation for achieving good health in the lives of your loved ones. A Big Berkey water filter gives them protection from bacteria, heavy metals, chlorine, fluoride, pesticides and herbicides, VOCs and more. And best of all, a Big Berkey water filter is a gift that lasts for many years with no additional investment. And that saves time and money in filter replacements that other water filters require and are even powerful enough to purify treated, untreated, or even stagnant pond water. As always, all orders over $50 are shipped free, and GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Order online at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com, spelled Big, B-E-R-K-E-Y, waterfilters.com, or call 877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-B-E-R-K-E-Y. Gift well this Christmas. Give a Big Berkey water filter.
The Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and we're taking your calls in this segment. Now, in the next segment, we're going to be joined with Gigi, Erneta, and with Leanne McAdoo, and they're going to talk about the burgeoning police state, and we're going to see how that is developing in different parts of the world. We see that there's massive demonstrations in the Ukraine, and the police there back down. We can see what can happen if there's enough people that get together. We see the same thing essentially happening in Thailand. In Thailand, they were told that they had a bulldozer just like the people in the Ukraine, and they were told that if they used that bulldozer, the police were going to shoot to kill. Now it appears that they've had second thoughts, and that government has blinked and backed down. There is strength in numbers. We've seen it in our protests. We've seen where in the protests in Dallas, they shut down a free speech around the JFK commemoration. We saw that the police moved on people, the police that were being backed by Homeland Security and the feds, moved on the crowd when it was at its smallest, in the rain and in the cold, and after people had been there for quite some time. We saw that happen at the Alamo in San Antonio. They didn't move against 1,000 people carrying rifles, but when you just had a few straggling around there, they no longer respected their right to open carry, which is a legal right here in Texas. Now, Alex is also going to be joining us, and along with Anthony Gucciardi, and we're going to be talking about the developing problems with Obama. Not that it's anything necessarily new, but what's new is the rhetoric that we're seeing from representatives. We're seeing it from think tanks. We had Michael Cannon with the Cato Institute talking about the fact that if Obama keeps ignoring the laws, that could cause a violent revolution. We see a law professor from George Washington University, Jonathan Turley, a very respected law professor, saying that the danger is quite severe from Obama. The problem that we have with the president is that he's not simply posing a danger to the Constitution, he's becoming the very danger the Constitution was designed to avoid. That's very strong language. We see an article on Infowars.com where a congressman is warning that he fears that Obama could suspend the election laws. And he says, well, if he can suspend the laws on immigration and nationalization, if he can arbitrarily invade another country, if he can do all these things as if he was a dictator, not under the rule of law, not checked by any of the branches of Congress, not under the Constitution, then why not allow him to, he certainly could possibly suspend the election laws and just make himself a perpetual dictator. But in this segment, I want to take your calls. We've been talking about a lot of things. We've been talking about the minimum wage increase that Obama is putting out there, which I think is really truly a head fake if you want to ignore everything else that's happening in the economy, the secretive Trans-Pacific Partnership trade agreement that he's negotiating. But let's take some of your calls here. We've got David in Kentucky. David, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, David?
Doing good.
Well, yesterday I was on my way to work. Me and my fiance work together, and we're about to drop we live in Indiana, and we crossed the bridge to get into Kentucky, and the police followed us for about 2 miles or so. My vehicle is a New Mexico vehicle. It belongs to my father, and the cops.
I'm sorry, Dave, I'm sorry. I'd really like to hear your story, but the phone is breaking up on you. Let's go to David in Texas. David?
Yes, how you doing?
Doing good.
I was with you guys Wednesday night and Thursday night. I didn't make it Friday because of the weather, but I was listening live. And when that melee began, and when Alex was talking about watching one of them push down a man with a little girl on on his shoulders, and I remember that kid. She was about 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
And what really troubled me the most, and it was probably my biggest fear, was the possibility that someone careless, whichever side, would have fired one shot. I think that they would have mowed you guys down.
Yeah. That's the concern, is that things can get out of hand. And it's just as you pointed out, it's just the confrontational attitude of the police. Is that coming up after one group of police had let everybody, the demonstrators who were conducting themselves peacefully and within these unconstitutional guidelines that the city of Dallas had put on free speech. So they were following all the rules. They weren't getting confrontational there. They were showing up to demonstrate, to point out the fact that the First Amendment was being stopped. But you had this group just come up and start pushing and punching without any warning. And that's what we see over and over again. We see the police doing that with tasers. We see them doing that down in Bastrop, where they tasered that 17-year-old child, and he hit his head on the concrete in a coma, possibly life-threatening. I'm not sure how that was resolved. That was about a week and a half ago that happened. But it's amazing to see that. We're going to be talking about that very thing in the next segment with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta. Stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about the abuse of police power and what we can do to bring it in, and how it's different in other countries, because there are other countries where that doesn't happen. It doesn't have to happen here, and we need to make sure that something is done about it. We'll be right back with Gigi Erneta and Leanne McAdoo. Stay tuned.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products, and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex, and I'm joined here in the studio with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta. They're here to talk about the police state and the differences that we've seen here and in places like Iceland. But right now we've got Gucciardi Jackson live at a protest, a fast food workers protest here in Austin, and he's talking to some of the people there at the protest about what they understand about the larger economic issues besides the minimum wage. Above and beyond that, Gucciardi.
Yes, can you hear me, David?
Yes. How you doing?
Okay, well, we're out here. This is on the MLK Boulevard and MLK and Airport Boulevard right here in Austin, Texas. You can see the crowd right here. Right before we went on air, people were inside, actually inside this Popeye's Chicken, yelling and screaming peacefully, though. And I believe they've come out. I'm not sure if they got kicked out or what exactly happened. But let's go ahead and see if we can talk to a few of these people and see if they know or what exactly their issue is, you know, what they're out here for. Because they want 15. This is a fight for 15. And we'll see, you know, what their plan is to get that. Excuse me, sir. What brings you out here today?
I come here with the Workers' Defense Project in solidarity with the 5 for 15 campaign, in solidarity with our workers making $7.25 because you can't live on $7.25. And I'm really excited this is happening all over the nation, and not only in fast food industry. You see it in retail, in the farm growers, construction workers. Everybody is fighting back because it's a time where everybody's tired, and we feel the tides of change coming.
Sir, let me ask you about the devaluing of the dollar, because we have a lot of, I'm sure, college students out here. You know, let's say back in the 60s or so forth, somebody could work at a place like Popeye's Chicken on a minimum wage job or, you know, a lower wage, and they could afford to pay their tuition, they could afford an apartment and so forth. But now we don't see that. Do you have any idea why that is?
I think that is because wealth is every time more and more concentrated in a few conglomerations, a few corporations. I think there's about 10 corporations that have been merging and merging and merging, and that concentration of wealth is you know, it's also organized like we are, and they are passing all these laws, or convincing all these politicians to pass these laws that benefit all these corporations.
They benefit a few. Let me, sir, let me ask you if you know about the Federal Reserve.
Some. Yeah.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve, they have this thing called quantitative easing, where they basically print money out of thin air. They have nothing backing the money, which makes the dollars worth less and less and less. You know, and while I have no problem with fast food workers, you know, making more money, do you think it may be more effective to maybe have these type of protests at the Federal Reserve?
Not instead, but in addition to this, I agree.
Gucciardi, ask him if he knows anything about the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Sir, have you ever heard of the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, as someone I'm from Mexico, and seeing how the NAFTA devastated our country, I just am really terrified about how it's Trans-Pacific.
I'm glad you brought up NAFTA, because a lot of people don't know about this NAFTA thing, the NAFTA superhighway and all that. But, sir, we got to move around a little bit, and I definitely appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good day.
That's good. At least he knows about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And, of course, it's not just the TPP. They've also got a transatlantic free trade agreement, TAFTA, which is going to be just like
the crowd here.
NAFTA. Yeah, let's ask them.
It's a good rowdy crowd. They simmered down a little bit, but when we first got here, there's a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, and they want more than $7.25. So let's go out and see if we can ask a few more people.
Sure.
Excuse me, sir. What brings you out here today?
Trying to get people a decent wage that they can actually live on.
And you think $15 an hour would do that?
It'll start. It's a good start on that. I mean, obviously, $7.25. It's a slow death at $7.25. So it's a good start, but not an end. Yeah.
Okay, now what would you say to the critics who says, you know, I don't have a problem with people making more money, but working at fast food isn't really something we want to pay a person $15 an hour to do?
I think people need a living wage, and I think $15 an hour is the living wage. And I think anyone that works should get a living wage. A lot of these people aren't moving on to some other job. A lot of these people, the average age of the workers I saw a sign was 29. You know, that isn't someone that's moving on. They need money now. They need money for their lives now. And if they move on, that's great. But if they stay there, they need a living wage.
Hey, Gucciardi, ask him if he knows that they're going to double the federal gas taxes.
Sir, are you aware that they're planning to double the federal gas tax?
No.
$27 billion.
$7 billion.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, sir. Let me ask you one more question. Speaking about raising money, did you know that in Fort Hood they had some young ladies resort to prostitution to pay their bills? And, you know, people are saying, you know, if that's what the soldiers have to do you think the soldiers need the money more than these guys here at the fast food?
I think they all need money. They all need money.
All right, thank you, sir. How you doing, man? You got your GoPro there. Yeah. Tell me what brings you out here today.
Oh, just showing some support, man. You know, hoping to get the minimum wage raised up. If we can, great. Hopefully, if not getting it to 15, we can get it at least a little closer to that.
Do you work here at fast food?
No, I don't. I'm from San Antonio. I just came to show some support. Yeah.
Okay, now, one of the concerns is, maybe people aren't living within their means. We see Black Friday, people out going buying Xboxes and PlayStations 4. Do you think that's the issue with the issues going on today?
If people could show more restraint with their spending, I'm pretty sure there would be some change in their life. But people are going to buy what they want to buy when they want to buy it.
And
about people.
And maybe you don't work in fast food, but do you know if there's been a decrease in people eating fast foods like Popeye's chicken or McDonald's or anything like that?
I certainly stopped eating it.
Why is that?
Well, just because it's really unhealthy for you, all the ingredients in the food.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you about GMOs. Do you think GMOs is maybe affecting things?
In a big way. I personally, I'm not a scientist. I didn't study it, but I've done a little research on the web and looked some stuff up, and apparently they're very bad for you. A lot of negative side effects can happen when you start eating them. And I just got back from Italy. I was there for 3 months, and I completely changed my diet. And then when I got back, I started incorporating the American diet back into my diet, and it just obliterated my stomach. I was knocked out for like a week or two, man.
Man, that's messed up. Now, a lot of people start these off as a launching pad to other careers. But here in the city of Austin, I know you're from San Antonio, but here in the city of Austin, some members of the Austin City Council want to ban the construction of new fast food restaurants. It was for the children, of course.
Yeah. I don't think that would be that bad of an idea. I mean, we have so many already. On almost on almost every street corner, you have a fast food restaurant, different kinds. And I think the quality of them, they're just going lower and lower. If they could maybe come up with a universal fast food that was actually good for you to consume.
like on Demolition Man, where the only fast food restaurant left was Taco Bell.
All right, that's great. Thanks, Shikari.
All right, we'll go back to you in the studio, David.
All right, thanks a lot, Shikari. Great report. Yeah, it's interesting to see, Leanne and Gigi, it's interesting to see how there's not a lot of awareness about the gasoline tax. So as you see, as Obama and the Democrats are offering this one increase to them, they're taking it away with the other hand, right?
Just to see that out there, it's also just another blatant difference between America and Iceland. You don't have the people there fighting for a wage that will allow them to live a decent, not even a decent life, just to pay their minimum bills to survive. That's what they're asking for, and you don't really see that in Iceland.
Well, and I really do feel sorry for the people that are there. I'm not trying to dump on people because they're working in fast food, and it is no longer really an entry-level position. And why, though? It's because the economy's been gutted by NAFTA, and it's now going to be gutted by the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We see the economic base of this country being taken out. But on the other hand, you can't just go out and vote yourself a raise. That is the kind of thinking that Obama does. He thinks that he can just speak a website into existence or buy it into existence with $600 million. I mean, it's probably the record amount that anybody has ever spent for a website ever. And it doesn't do anything. I mean, it's still just at the very basic, the best you could say is that some people are claiming that now the front end is collecting the data, but then they have no idea, and they're dropping hints that the back end of the system is throwing out garbage to all the insurance companies and healthcare providers.
Well, don't you feel protected, though? I mean, all your information will not only go onto the internet, it'll be stored by the NSA, who's incapable of being secure, and then you go on and let the hackers in.
Well, let the hackers in,
That's why they're, paying off the insurers, because they're like, look, just take whatever you think you need to just figure this whole debacle out. You figure it all out on your end, and then we'll just pay you and figure it all out later.
And who's really
That's the
paying?
solution.
Well, we were gonna talk about the police state and the burgeoning police state and kind of contrast that to Iceland. But since we're talking about economic issues, let's talk about the fact that Iceland is actually forgiving mortgage debt for their population. That's what we were all told was going to happen. That's what the congressmen were called in to the offices and told that if they didn't give the big bailout, that there was going to be riots in the street, and that those bailouts are going to be used to pay down mortgages. And of course, they could have paid off the mortgages of a huge percentage of the population. I forget what the amount was, but it was well over 50%. Exactly. But they're actually doing that in Iceland because Iceland didn't cave into the bankers. It's the only country in the world that didn't.
Yeah, and they kicked them out. They said, get out of here. And they kicked out the politicians that couldn't be trusted, who were trying to get them to use their taxpayer dollars to pay off these too big to fail banks. And they were like, no.
They said no to a bailout. And,
and contrast that to what's going on in Greece.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where people, we had the report that then the World Health Organization walked it back. But their initial report, which I feel is more credible, their initial report said that there were people in Greece that were self-injecting themselves with HIV so they could get an additional stipend each month because they couldn't afford to eat. They couldn't get any health care. So having AIDS would give them better health care and give them an additional stipend. Now, you know, they walked that back and said, well, you know, but that, I believe, we'll go with the original information that came out from the organization and not with what they were told to walk it back with. Yeah. We see that happening even with CNN. We see on Sunday, they go in and they test the new and improved website, and it crashes on them while they're testing it. And then the next day, their senior health advisor comes on and just gushes over how wonderful the front end of the Obamacare website is. So, I would go with the initial report from CNN on that. But talk about Iceland and the police state.
Well, Monday, Iceland experienced, their country is kind of in a state of mourning because they experienced for the first time ever since they became a country, a police officer killed a citizen. First time ever. First time. So this is just incredible to them. So they're kind of in this state of
It's mourning. Incredible to me, too, having lived in the United States where the violence is so pervasive from the police and where they treat us as if we're not even a human like they are. Absolute contempt.
Well, and their homicide rate in 2009 was 1.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And the thing here, and another thing to just show how different it is, the police there, they issued an apology, and they said the police regret this incident and would like to extend our condolences to the family of the man. They didn't say we were wrong in doing this, but they said it's, you know, we're sorry. It's wrong to take a person's life. It's sad that it came to this. I mean, and then you compare that with what is happening in New York, where the police officers who fired into the crowd, both situations, the victim was mentally unstable, right? And so here in New York, they fired into a crowd and injured innocent bystanders, and instead of saying, oh my gosh, we're sorry, they're blaming the man who was unarmed, and they're making him take the blame and be sued.
Oh yeah,
for those injuries, and he was unarmed.
Did you see this report that we did earlier about this 14? You saw these pictures of this 14-year-old who was tasered in the face while he was handcuffed. I mean, isn't that amazing? And you see how
a child.
Yeah, exactly, a child. And you see how both eyes are swollen, and they said that happened because he hit the sidewalk.
It's his fault. He shouldn't have, you know, been handcuffed and
over less than $32 worth of shoplifting. That's the thing to me, is the lack of proportionality to any of this, and the fact that there's never any accountability.
Right, and that lack of accountability, no guilt, no apologies issued, it gives this God complex where they feel they can do whatever they want. Why do they even need to treat us as anything other than they're slaves that they can tase in the face and get away with it? Because there is no accountability, and now we're arming them even more. Giving them even more power.
And in Iceland, the registered gun owners, there's actually 90,000 registered gun owners, and there's only, I believe, 350,000 people, maybe 325. I don't want to.
Almost a third of their population has a gun.
So, are you suggesting that maybe if people had guns and
I am absolutely suggesting
broad ownership of guns, that might do something to constrain the government? Are you suggesting that maybe if the banks don't run the country, that maybe it might be better for the citizens in Iceland?
That.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bold suggestion, but
well, it's interesting because it is kind of like a little laboratory. It is what we've been talking about. It is what people, if they look at the problem, they can understand it, analyze it, and they know that this is really the way that it should go. But we can actually see it being played out here. It's just like we could see the difference between North and South Korea, or between East and West Germany. We've had those opportunities in the past, or even between, say, Hong Kong and mainland China. We could see how when people were allowed to be free, to the extent that they were free, they were also had healthier lives, they were more prosperous, they were happier, they didn't have these kinds of police state, and yet it's the police state that I see being put on everybody. I was just amazed when I was watching, you were there in Dallas, Leanne, and when I was watching it, what was amazing to me was just the attitude of the police leading up to that confrontation. And the fact that there didn't seem to be any connection with Alex or anybody who would talk to them and ask them legitimate questions. I mean, he wasn't trying to trick them into some kind of a trick interview or anything. He would just ask them, where is such and such a place? Or where can I even go to file a complaint? I've been attacked. And they would just stare straight ahead and not talk to him.
Yeah, they're no longer public servants. And I think that they're quite offended by that, where I think the initial definition to be a servant, we might think of slavery or something, but it's actually an honorable thing to serve. And so now they don't want to even be associated with serving you, a citizen. You know, it's completely a 180 from where it used to be. You know, and here we're talking Iceland. They're, you know, almost a third of the population is armed, right? They have guns. The police are unarmed. There's one special task force that has guns, and they're rarely sent out. They were obviously sent out in this instance, but that's the difference. The people there are not afraid of their government. They're not arming themselves to overthrow a tyrannical government at some point. They're in control. They're you know, the people that they vote to represent them are actually representing them, and not the banks.
Yeah.
And even the police there that were in Iceland during the major protests that were going on were standing there. They weren't pushing, you know, people around like Leanne. They weren't aggressive about it. They stood there and they stood the line, but they didn't have weapons. They had, you know, I think they had spray and maybe bully clubs. They were just like, we're not gonna move on the citizens. They stood there, and even if people were this close, they were nice about it. Go figure, you know.
Right.
It was and then the whole idea that they had a revolution, that the people had a revolution with pots and pans.
Wow, that's amazing. And we've seen that happen before. We saw that when East Germany came down. We saw that it was a peaceful revolution because people showed up peacefully, they were informed, and the police decided that for once they weren't going to shoot on order. And that's what's necessary. It's for the police to understand that they're creating a world that they're going to have to live in, as Alex has said so many times. We're going to be right back with Gigi Erneta and Leanne McAdoo. Stay tuned.
We all know that Berkey water purification systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfowarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfowarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
You better watch out, you sure better cry. You're at least gonna pout, and I'm telling you why. Privacy is leaving your town.
Is your cell phone being used to build a profile on you? Give the gift of privacy and block unwanted cell phone spying with the Privacy Case from PrivacyCase.com.
They're making their list, they're checking them twice. They're gonna make up who's been naughty or nice.
The problem is real, and so is the solution. Go to PrivacyCase.com because
they see you when you're sleeping. They listen when you're awake. They can tell us all you've been bad when you've been good. So get yourself a privacy case. Oh,
now through December 31st, buy yourself an American-made privacy case and give one for only $79.95 each. Go to PrivacyCase.com today. The Privacy Case, because there is a case for privacy.
We don't need
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and I'm joined here in studio with Leanne McAdoo and Gigi Erneta. We've got most of the Prison Planet TV crew here, and we've got just had a report from Gucciardi Jackson, who was out on the street talking to protesters who were trying to get a minimum wage increase. You know, we can't just vote ourselves an increase, but Obama seems to think that he can just suspend reality with his dictates. And we're going to be talking to Anthony Gucciardi and Alex Jones in the next hour about the increasing accusations of Obama acting as if he's a dictator. Even one congressman saying that he's worried that Obama might suspend the election law because, after all, he suspended these other laws. He particularly pointed out the immigration laws. And Gigi, you had an article here about David Dewhurst, our lieutenant governor.
I did, but I hate to jump to that now because tonight you mentioned it about Obama. You know, he put up a special election committee. It was an executive order this year, and I don't know if anyone was awake for that. If you go to the executive orders on the White House page, that you mentioned that. It's very interesting that he put together a special committee and then even altered the numbers of the amount of people that he had on that election committee. So yeah, I smell a rat. And not only that, but they're talking about getting rid of the 22nd Amendment, which would allow him to become...
Oh, yeah. They've been talking... well, it's kind of frightening because they've been talking about that for a long time, even for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, they would love to have a perpetual president up there, and one party or the other is bound to do that pretty soon. It's great having everybody in here. Like I said before, we have pretty much most of the Prison Planet TV crew in here, and it's important for you, if you're a listener, to support Prison Planet TV. It's something that you can share with other people. It's a great gift to give. But even if you just buy it for yourself, you can share it with up to 10 other people can listen to it. It's the way that we fund our organization here, the way we fund Prison Planet TV. And we've also got a brand new product. We've got Fluoride Shield. And all of us have water filters at home. We were just talking about this in the break, and Gigi was saying she's got a water filter at home. I do too. I love my water filter. I have the big one from ProPure, and I'm telling you, I live out in the country. Even though we have to get the municipal water in our house, let me tell you, that water is hard and icky. We run it through the filter, and it's amazing. It tastes so good. In fact, the first night that I had it, my husband poured one from the tap and then one from the filter just to see if I would know. I mean, that tap water basically came out of my nose. It was so awful. But the ProPure is amazing. It tastes so great. My son brought a glass of water to my wife the other night. We were sitting there getting ready to watch a movie, and she looked at it and she goes, "Did you pour that out of the faucet, or did you get that out of the filter?" And it's like, "Oh, I got that out of the faucet." No, it's out of the filter. I mean, you could see the difference. It was amazing. And of course, the water around here is pretty bad. But even if you don't live on a municipal filter, you know, it gets out a lot of stuff that's in your water. But this Fluoride Shield is a new product for people because you can't get it all out with a water filter.
Well, it's everywhere. It's in the bread that they're making. If you go to a restaurant, it'll be used in everything. Anyone that goes to get a latte from their favorite coffee,
you're ruining it for people.
No, it is everywhere. You can't take your ProPure with you everywhere.
That's true. Yeah, it's in a lot of different things. So that's a new product at InfowarsLife.com. And those are the ways that we support the operation, folks. If you like what we're doing here, if you find it helpful to get the information out, Prison Planet TV subscriptions, documentaries are there, as well as a nightly news show. And Leanne and Gigi and I all do that with Gucciardi Jackson. We're the hosts for that, and you can see our work there every night. We're trying to bring you news. And we were just talking about Dewhurst and how they're trying to beef up the border. What's going on with that? I mean, he's got a different approach than Obama. Just wants to ignore the immigration laws, but they want to essentially create something like a Berlin Wall down there.
Well, he started with the whole TSA. We tried to get rid of the TSA here in Texas, but Dewhurst wouldn't have it. So here we go again. So he's talking about a $60 million upgrade to the Border Patrol. He's saying that they had a great 3-week initiative. It was called Operation Strong Safety. But now what he left out is in that strong safety that basically it also involved illegal searches.
Hang on, we're going to continue this right after the break. We're going to be back with Gigi and Leanne, and we're talking about immigration control from the guy who had a career working for the CIA.
Oh boy.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex today, and I'm joined in the studio with Gigi Erneta and Leanne McAdoo. I'm going to be joined in this hour with Alex Jones, and Anthony Gucciardi is going to be coming up in the next segment. We're going to be talking about the increasing buzz in Washington about Obama becoming a dictator. We've got law professors. We've got people from long-standing, reputable think tanks that usually take a very conservative approach, even though, of course, they're partisan. And we have congressmen pointing out that if Obama can just suspend laws like immigration laws arbitrarily, then he can, of course, suspend the election laws. And that's a story on Infowars right now. And we were just talking before the break with Gigi Erneta about the different approach that our former CIA lieutenant governor here in Texas, David Dewhurst, has towards immigration control. What's he proposing to do?
$60 million more he wants for the Border Patrol. He wants to have this incredible, as he calls it, saturation. But what he left out, and McGraw actually pointed out, is that he had search and seizures of cars in this 3-week awesome operation that they had. So he's not talking about that, but McGraw saying, "Oh no, we're not going to do that this time. We're not going to." And the thing is we've done reports. Infowars has reported before on Border Patrol, and they're just standing there. You know, people just come on in.
Well, we have this situation now in America where they're not really.
Just come on in.
Yeah, there we are up there on the video. We got a guy just riding across the border, the Rio Grande there. We've got this situation now in the U.S. where once they find somebody that's an illegal immigrant, they don't even bother to send them back. And yet we have this Constitution-free zone within about 100 miles of the border where they're pulling people over and
asking them for their IDs.
Getting intrusive, exactly. You know, just ordinary people stopping us in traffic, and it's like they did in Nazi Germany. That's always been the hallmark of tyranny, to stop people and ask them for identity papers.
Oh, and the thing is he's wanting to, you know, the $60 million is nothing to sniff at. That's a lot of money, and you know who's going to pay for that. Although I have to say, there's a quote I'd like to give you, a Dewhurst quote here. It says that he said, "When we get through with the final price tag, I'm going to send an invoice to President Obama." So kind of.
There we go. Well, he can pay that with all of those.
To the taxpayers, I
guess.
guess.
They can borrow the money and send that to Texas, I guess. But I guess getting back to the point where if he's going to beef it up and saturate it, that means that they're going to do even more of these police state tactics that they've been doing. And it's not, growing up looking at these Nazi Germany things, it was always a hallmark when they went into a country and they occupied it, and they would stop people on the sidewalk and they would say, "Your identity papers, please," and all this stuff. You even see it with the remakes of Red Dawn, okay? How do they depict tyranny? Well, of course, everybody knows how you depict tyranny. You stop people when they're going about not doing anything. You make them guilty. You make them prove their identity to you, and you collect their papers. So they have checkpoints where they're looking at people's identity papers. That's the archetype for tyranny. And that's what they're doing throughout Texas and elsewhere. Ron Paul and others have said, if you're going to let people, if you're going to block the borders, if you're going to turn it into a police state at the border, understand that's going to be used against you as well.
Right, and Rob Dew pointed out he was actually there taking that footage of the guy crossing back and forth over the Rio Grande, and the cops that were there were actually ticketing. They weren't ticketing the people coming back and forth across the border. They were ticketing the young students, the young law students that were there at the hot springs. So because they knew that they could, get their quota met and get paid off by these college kids. So they're not beefing up Border Patrol to stop, illegal immigration.
Everything is a head fake. It's just we're going to raise your minimum wage by 50%, but oh, by the way, we're going to double the gas tax that you pay the feds.
Keep track of your miles.
Well, and that's why they want to raise, Obama's like, we're going to raise the minimum wage is because they need those low-income people to pay off their Obamacare premiums. Like, it's not to help you. It's just like, okay, sorry, I've implemented this new tax and this new law, so we need to make sure you can pay it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We got Gigi Erneta and Leanne McAdoo, part of the staff of Prison Planet TV, and you can support that operation with a subscription, and you can get a Christmas special right now, only $39.95. So help support the operation. We're going to be right back with Anthony Gucciardi, and we're going to be talking about Obama and his new role as dictator, as people are increasingly seeing him. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, You in Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Renowned author and expert, Joel Skousen.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
What I tell people is that you do have time. We talk about natural disasters, the health environment. We talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states, most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy. This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Available only at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
The Alex Jones Show. Because there is a war on for your mind.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. Alex will be joining us later in the show. Right now, I'm joined in the studio with Anthony Gucciardi from Storyleak. Been a lot of news breaking today. We've got China saying that they would love to create a Death Star on the moon. That's a story that's on Infowars from Paul Joseph Watson. And, of course, Obama is going around talking about how he wants to raise the minimum wage to help the working poor, even though it's his quote-unquote affordable health care that's causing most of the working poor to lose their full-time jobs. And, of course, doubling the federal tax on gasoline at the same time adding a new tax to track people the number of miles that they drive. That's something that's not really going to help out the working poor too much, is it, Anthony?
No, absolutely not. And more specifically, this new major story that Obama, his powers are so unprecedented that even congressmen now are saying Obama is enacting dictatorial powers by saying that, yes, I'll follow some laws, but overall, I'll do anything I want.
Yeah.
And the key thing here is, yeah, some of the Congress people are saying he could become a dictator. You know, he could choose to suspend election terms and everything like that. But the reality is he's already enforced dictatorial powers.
Yes.
We have proof of that. Right now, we're going to go over it, specifically what he's done. So if someone ever comes up to you and you're in a debate or you need to show someone what's going on, this is the key.
That's right.
Obama has already said the Constitution doesn't matter. He has already used dictator-style powers to go ahead and do anything he wants. And they do it with this straight face. And they act like it's no big deal, from the NSA spying on you at all times to the DHS saying you have no constitution, literally. They're doing this over and over again and getting away with it because the people aren't freaking out enough about it. And even when they do, Obama just gets away with it. So why can't he suspend the election? Why can't he say, okay, I'll run again? You know, why can't he do anything? He could literally declare himself a dictator today and probably get away with it if we let him. That's why we need to push this into the actual news and make it a headline. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Look at just the Indefinite Detention Act, where he signed that midnight on a New Year's Eve holiday, said, don't worry, I'm not going to use it. But I mean, that was totally unconstitutional to start with, to say that they could pick up people and not charge them with anything and hold them indefinitely as part of the NDAA. So we see an infrastructure of tyranny that's being built, but he's actually ignoring laws that are already in place. I mean, it's not, some of this stuff is an infrastructure that he's building, which can and will be used either by him or by other presidents. But there's other areas where he's actually already violating the law.
Every single time they say, don't worry, this is just for this thing. We're not going to use it for this and that. Like the TSA now going to football stadiums. Every single time they say that, it's a guaranteed 100% lie, and it's the opposite of the truth. Look at example. The Department of Homeland Security said that, they're going to look at the border to specifically combat, immigration crimes and everything like that, the drug trade, and passed it off as this good thing. Then they come out and say 100 miles from the border, including oceans, everything within 100 miles of the border is a Constitution-free zone. The Fourth Amendment does not exist. The Constitution does not exist because it's on a border of the United States, which is complete bogus. I have an image here, if we could get a shot, where it shows this 100-mile border. A 100-mile border that suffocates cities like Houston and, cities like Los Angeles and Philadelphia and Tampa, Florida, and St. Petersburg, Florida. That's not the border of the United States, but they still say it is. So they can get away with anything. On this border, you don't have a constitution. We're only a couple hours away from these constitution-free zones. And Obama permits this and supports it, and the DHS reviewed itself and said it's 100% constitutional because, don't worry, it's a border. And that's just one of the many things that Obama has supported, shows 100% dictatorial powers against the Constitution, against the people, and we should just give him another term.
Well, if you're going to set it up at 100 miles, why not make it 200 miles or 500 miles or 1,000 miles and call that a border? I mean, you let them set up this arbitrary border, and as we heard in the last segment, Rob Dew was saying, Leanne related the story about what Rob Dew saw at the border when he was there with Alex, filming people going back and forth freely, and the border people were not doing anything about it. The authorities were not doing anything about that. Instead, what they were doing was harassing American citizens over petty violations over on the other side. They were totally ignoring that law, and that's the thing, how selectively they're enforcing it.
Let's just put it like this. I needed to renew my passport, and I was told by the people down at the Capitol building, Oh, if only you were an illegal immigrant, you'd be way quicker. I mean, they don't even care. They only target us, the actual law-abiding citizens, over and over again.
That's right.
But this goes to it's kind of like the general public is a piñata, and Obama has this massive aluminum bat, and he's just whacking it, and the candy's coming out every single time, just destroying the Constitution. Every hit is a strike against freedom and liberty, and if he can get away with it, the whole piñata is just going to break open into a bunch of candy, and they're all going to eat it. You know, but what then? The thing is, we have to actually do something, and we can push this into the media. That's what this segment is about, going over the blatant crimes of the Obama administration and Obama himself and saying, hey, you know, he already is a dictator. We can get him on this. We can actually go ahead and forward this saying, hey, we don't want a dictator. We don't want this. And guess what? We have control. Here's one. Obama gives himself control of all communication systems in America. Specifically, he used an executive order. This is from RT. It's all over the news now.
And those have exploded under Obama.
Yeah, this was back in 2012. He used an executive order to give the federal government control of all communication systems. Of course, they say, you know, it's an emergency. They say he signed an executive order on Friday allowing the White House to control all private communications in the country in the name of national security. He released his latest executive order on Friday, July 6th, a 2,000-word statement offered as the assignment of national security and emergency preparedness communications functions. And here it is for TV viewers, the actual executive order on the White House website. So executive orders have been abused over time to give someone dictatorial power in the face of opposition from Congress, which is increasingly, as they're admitting, becoming irrelevant. And it's interesting that that individual, Zimmerman, wrote an article, and I believe it was the Washington Times, saying that we should give Obama another term and that we should eliminate term limits and Obama should be a dictator forever. Well, he was looking at the history of the United States back to Washington and saying that, yeah, all these good people would have, look how good it would have been if Washington could have been president for longer and all those things. He really needs to look back to Rome. And we're facing a Caesar-type scenario. The Roman rulers were actually given certain terms of power until, you know, individuals like Caesar came along and became absolute dictators. Sure, if George Washington was maybe a president for another term, that might be a good thing, but then you're skewing the lines of the Constitution, skewing the lines of reality, saying, sure, one good person can come along, but what about that one corrupt person that's in power for hundreds of years? Everything the founders understood about Roman history and incorporated it into this country is now being backpedaled on, and they're saying, but we've had it so good for so long, everything's going to be fine, as they're completely dismantling the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, using executive orders to control all communications over and over again, saying you don't live in a Constitution area, stripping your Fourth Amendment rights, and we're supposed to believe that and allow him to prove himself in another term. And he's going to probably do it if you
made the analogy to Rome. I think the point at which our Caesar crossed the Rubicon really was with the Patriot Act. And we see with that, and of course that was our predecessor, but each successive president, this is not a partisan political thing, and people need to understand that this is very deep. It's into the entire infrastructure of the bureaucracy. It's the long-range planning of the corporations that are running this. Obama is far worse than any of the presidents before him, but I think we're going to continue to see, regardless of which party it is, we're going to continue to see this get worse and worse each time because we've allowed them to lay the infrastructure for tyranny, to assert that we are in a war on terror, which is a quote-unquote worldwide war, and that includes America as a battlefield. That's a rationale for the Indefinite Detention Act. So if they can assert that we're at a war that's going to last forever with an enemy that is not really defined, then they basically have set up for themselves a carte blanche situation to pull off anything in this country.
They're building themselves a proverbial house of tyranny, and each individual president is laying about 5 blocks onto the house. And the foundation has already been set by various government organizations and private sectors. They're laying the blocks. So we're looking at the blocks and freaking out that they're building the house when the house has already been built and will be continued to be built if we don't do something about it. And the key is, we can push this into the mainstream media, though, and make this a talking point, as we've done time and time again. Remember when Obama almost brought us into war with Syria, into a potential World War III scenario?
That's right.
Obama himself was out petitioning for it and saying we need to do it, and we need to attack Syria, even though 100% pretty much confirmed the gassings were on behalf of the Obama-backed Syrian rebels who go around and behead Christians in public squares and bathe in their blood and laugh about it. No, really good.
And of course, we had former congressmen like Kucinich saying that we're going to we're going to be the Air Force for Al Qaeda.
Yeah, and Lindsey Graham saying we're going to be nuked if we don't attack Syria and Iran as well.
That's right.
So we have a president now that is sparking World War III. And everyone that I talked to, I think the polls against it were 90-something% against going to war with Syria. Yet he was still pushing it over and over again. I mean, that enough is reason alone. Hey, this insane dictator-style lunatic is pushing us into World War III, but that's not enough. You know, he's shilling for the NSA, talking about how great it is that they track everything we do, dismantling the Fourth Amendment. The DHS is great, and they're also destroying our Constitution at large, not even just in amendments individually. So I am saying, I'm putting forward proof that Obama is not just, you know, beginning to become a dictator and enacting dictatorial powers, but this has been ongoing for years, years and years and years. And it's time to put all this information forward and say, hey, we don't want a dictator in this country. We're not going to stand for that. You know, there's bigger issues as well, but at the same time, this is the key. If we can destroy and dismantle this system, that house will never be built.
And I think it's key that we can win on individual battles like Syria. But now we're starting to see people talk about the bigger picture. As we saw with these hearings where Jonathan Turley was there. And we're going to talk about that right after we come back. Can we get beyond this left-right paradigm spectrum that they use to manipulate us? We'll be right back with Anthony Gucciardi, and Alex Jones will be calling in. Stay tuned.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
So it's off to Grandma's house for the holidays, eh? That's great. But while you're going over the river and through the woods, professional burglars are choosing easy targets to break into. Don't be an easy target. Plug in fake TV. Fool criminals into believing someone's home at your house watching TV. Fake TV works a bit like a light on a timer, but fake TV is far more convincing. Fake TV plugs into any outlet and simulates the light and colors of a real TV. Burglars will likely move on to easier targets and leave your house alone. Fake TV costs less than a month of most alarm monitoring plans and makes a great Christmas gift. Or it's perfect if you're traveling over the holidays or anytime. Order your fake TV by calling 877-5-FAKE-TV or go to faketv.com. That's 877-532-5388 or faketv.com. Fake TV, the burglar deterrent.
It's been said, those who control the food control the people. Are you concerned about GMO foods making you sick and affecting your mind? Many people suffer from lack of energy, insomnia, loss of stamina, weight gain, and the inability to think clearly. Genetically modified crops, processed foods, and toxic chemicals can compromise your health and are silently destroying your digestive system, which accounts for 80% of your immune system. Take back control of your health with Pro EM1 Probiotic from Terraganics. Pro EM1 Probiotic helps protect your body against irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, diabetes, the common cold, and much more. And including a powerful probiotic like Pro EM1 is part of your daily routine, puts you back in control and prevents you from becoming a mindless zombie manipulated by the pharmaceutical and GMO agendas. Call Terraganics at 866-369-3678 or visit Terraganics.com. Terganix.com.
To thank you for being a loyal listener, we have a limited time freebie offer for you. Claim your free heirloom tomato seeds, just pay shipping, right now at 123freeseeds.com. These aren't ordinary seeds. These are heirloom, non-genetically modified super seeds that are open pollinated and can be grown, harvested, and replanted endlessly. These survival seeds are actually more valuable than gold in a crisis. Go to 123freeseeds.com and you can get an airtight storage packet of 150 super seeds free while supplies last to say thank you for being a loyal listener. First come, first served. Just cover shipping. Go to 123freeseeds.com now to see if your free heirloom seeds are still available. That's 123freeseeds.com.
The Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex. I'm joined in studio with Anthony Gucciardi from Storyleak. And we were just talking, Anthony, about the obvious dictatorship powers that Obama is assuming. Of course, this is something that's been going on for quite some time. We can see this happening going back very, very obviously with the Patriot Act under George Bush. And it's sad to see people that were opposing it under George Bush following into it and saying it's okay as long as Obama's doing it. You know, he's a benevolent dictator if he's in my party. And we see the Republicans doing the same thing. The way they're playing is with this partisanship. But we're now seeing people saying things about Obama's dictatorship that we've never seen before. And I thought this was an interesting exchange that's on Real Clear Politics between a Republican congressman and a law professor from George Washington University, Jonathan Turley. And the congressman is Bob Goodlatte, I think is how you pronounce his name, from Virginia. And what he said was that the balance of power is not about keeping one branch of government from usurping another. He said it's about protecting the liberty of Americans from the dangers of concentrated government power. And then Turley came back and said, yeah, that's exactly, he's doing exactly what the Constitution was designed to protect. He's becoming the very danger the Constitution was designed to avoid, and that is the concentration of power in every single branch.
There's no question. And let's just put it like this. There's been a systematic configuration of tyranny over the past several presidents in a real concentrated way, and they've been building this house of tyranny, as we talked about before, each one laying a certain amount of blocks into it. But never before have we seen such a heavy concentration of just a nuclear fusion of tyranny as we have with Obama. And to put that into perspective with real hard evidence, the writer of the Patriot Act, the one that actually wrote it up, he is actually petitioning now, saying that the NSA is so out of control that not only does it violate the Constitution, but we have a serious, serious threat that he's never seen before. The guy that wrote the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. George Bush was, no question, bad, very terrible, absolutely tyrannical in many ways. Now we have Obama, who is just the capstone of this pyramid. I mean, this is it's a whole new level.
If we see Fast and Furious, we see Benghazi, and then even James Clapper and others lying under oath to Congress, nothing happens to anybody. No matter what crimes they commit, nothing ever happens to anybody under this Justice Department. So we're there. They've given themselves that power. I think the only hope is if people can not give someone a pass because they happen to be of the same tribe as them. Well, and that kind of tribalism is partisan politics as well as identity politics.
That's right. And the good news is, though, at the same time, we are reaching millions of people and they are waking up and understanding all of this. And the key is, like a sharp razor cutting through all the rhetoric and getting to the reality of it and pushing it past through the mainstream media and understanding everything. But when we live in a world where when I go to the NSA data center in Utah and can't even go to the parking lot without getting arrested and threatened to be eaten by their dogs, I don't think that's a good thing. And the only, mainstream media that picks it up is the Salt Lake City Tribune, and they asked me if I was trying to attack the NSA officers when I'm literally standing in a parking lot, all documented on live stream. And they said, well, were you trying to provoke them and attack them? No, I wasn't trying to provoke them and attack them. I was trying to ask them a few questions and see if I could get into this data center where they're spending billions and just having power failures and everything to see what's going on, like a very bad American that I am.
Well, we saw that in Dallas as well. We saw the Dallas Morning News come out and do basically a hit piece on Alex and the Infowars crew that was there. Instead of being angry about the fact that the Dallas city government had shut down free speech, the free exercise of free speech, and you would think that a press organization would stand up for that. But instead, they attack other journalists who are protesting the attack on free speech.
Yeah, which is funny because I actually spoke to one of the journalists from the Dallas Morning News, and she seemed to be very supportive at the time. And then she went back, and I guess her bosses told her, you better not do a good story on them or you're going to be fired. So that's simply how it goes in this situation. But my thing also is seeing what people are watching on television. They embody the main characters that are presented to be cool in television. One example is this show that's really popular now called Community. And always the main character, the male in it, is always this docile, apathetic loser that is propped up and all of the girls want him. So when men watch the show or women watch the show, they see this docile male that has no care about anything. I mean, literally in these television shows, you know, someone could be killed right next to them or, you know, something horrible could be happening, but it's cool to not care. It's cool to be apathetic, and it's cool to go through life like a zombie and just have pure apathy. And the women in the shows gravitate towards that. Of course, in real life, it's the complete opposite, but they aspire to be that. It's cool.
And people think that they're not stupid enough to think, oh, I can't be influenced like that. That's what advertising is about. Why do you think the big mega corporations spend millions of dollars? It's because if they can show somebody that's beautiful using their product, that subconsciously has an effect on you. We'll be right back with Anthony Gucciardi, and Alex Jones will be calling in, so stay tuned.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today. My friends, Alex Jones here to tell you about some of the most important information concerning you and your family's health. Radiation levels have more than doubled in the last 60 years in the Northern Hemisphere from all of the nuclear testing and radiological accidents. Radioactive contamination is now in most of the food supply. There's only 2 ways to avoid this. Move south of the equator or properly protect your thyroid with nascent iodine. Looking to protect my family, I've done deep research. Nascent iodine is the purest, cleanest, absolute best form of iodine to protect yourself and your family. It's made right here in the USA, completely non-GMO. I searched out the best quality and now have developed a double-strength form of nascent iodine, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Nascent iodine is on record as one of the only safe ways to detox from fluoride poisoning. Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Secure your super high-quality nascent iodine today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex today. I'm joined in studio with Anthony Gucciardi. Now, we have ways that we fund our operation here. We've got Prison Planet TV, which is funded by your subscription. That's our budget there for Prison Planet TV and the nightly news. But we also have products that we sell. You know, we could do this as a government subsidy like some media operations do, or we could find a billionaire sugar daddy. But we've determined that what we're going to do is to bring you great products that are going to help you in your life, help you with the nutritional problems that we've identified, the things that we see that are environmental threats to your health, to your family's health. And we've got Anthony Gucciardi here. Now, Anthony, you've got a couple of new products that we've just put out InfowarsLife.com that were exclusively developed for Infowars by you and Dr. Group. Tell us about these.
Exactly right. So as many of you are probably aware, I founded naturalsociety.com, the third largest natural health website, and I teamed up with Dr. Group. And ultimately, in what I found to be, years of research and Dr. Group's multiple decades of research, one of the things I realized was that there's no supplement that rips fluoride out of the body, because we're constantly being exposed to it. Even if you're not drinking tap water, you're eating organic food, which oftentimes is made with sodium fluoride laden water. The bread in organic products, what do you think they're using to roll it all together? It's the sodium fluoride based water supply almost every single time. The vegetables that you buy at Whole Foods that are sprayed with mists of water, that's tap water.
That's right.
I'm exposed to sodium fluoride on a daily basis, and you are as well, David. And the thing was, I asked Dr. Group, could it be possible to develop a fluoride shield, a fluoride detox, fluoride cleanse product? That was in 2012. And he said, yes, it is possible. We got with Alex, and we looked into it. I mean, I think he spent just 500 hours just looking at the ingredients that could be possibly used for this. Over thousands of them. He selected about 6 of them that are absolutely key, with tamarind, cilantro, zeolites. The zeolites actually latch onto it so it can go out of your bloodstream. And Fluoride Shield was the result, which is exclusive to Infowars Life. There's no other product like this.
Just started selling it, right?
Just started selling it yesterday, and we have a limited supply. We will be able to get another one in 4 to 6 weeks. So you could either get it today, or you will have to wait up to 6 weeks for new products. I've been taking the test version and this version. My thing is, it tastes really good. We've been giving it to other people around here, and it not only does it taste good, but the key thing is that it actually works. And we have a breakdown on InfowarsLife.com, Alex's video introducing it, as well as you click on Fluoride Shield and you can read about how each individual ingredient works and what it is and everything like that. As always, non-GMO, made in the United States, vegan, not tested on animals, gluten-free, across the board, the best products we could possibly find, organically sourced and grown ingredients. And then, see, we've never done this before, but this is a dual launch, 2 key products. But the problem is Super Male Vitality, we don't want to push it too hard because we only have a very, very tiny amount of this. And Super Male Vitality is, in my opinion, the key thing that's getting my health back on track when it comes to exercising. I actually, as some of you may be aware, used to really be into working out, used to really be into natural health, which I still am. But since I've been so distracted by this madness in the world, I've been gaining a little weight. I've been losing my muscle mass. I used to have 17.5-inch arms. They've gone down substantially. And I was, depressed for a while because I've lost all my muscle mass and everything. I've been taking the test version of Super Male Vitality for about a couple months now. And my thing is, when I wake up, I actually want to go to the gym. That's a breakthrough for me. And I'm so glad that I was able to work alongside Dr. Group, bring it to Alex, develop these key products. I encourage every single person to check out at InfowarsLife.com the Fluoride Shield and Super Male Vitality, even if you can't afford to buy it at InfowarsLife.com, even though the prices, Alex absolutely asserted, definitely said, there's no question we need to give them literally lower than the prices you guys are recommending. Over and over again, he said, I'm not going any higher. Which is crazy, because if you look at our production costs, we're not even making that much, but he just demanded it, which was awesome, and he's a really good guy for that. But you just go to InfowarsLife.com. You can read about the products, and also, though, there's some tips to enhancing your health naturally that don't even include these. So just go to InfowarsLife.com, and you can read all about it. Survival, super male vitality, fluoride shield, and then of course survival shield is also still up there, the nascent iodine.
That's great. It's a win-win situation, something that's good for you, help you in with your health, and something that funds our operation. That's the way we fund our operation. Infowars Health, InfowarsLife.com.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Now, we were talking just before the break, we were talking about how they're modeling for people and how effective that is to model behavior in these programs to alter the way people think about themselves, the way they interact with people in society.
Well, you know, it's actually funny. It's related to super male vitality. They're turning all the key characters on major network shows into these effeminate males who not only don't want to have any ounce of masculinity, and then they make the women actually really attracted to that. Just look at Justin Bieber. I mean, literally the key effeminate male. He's actually pretty old. He looks like he's 10 years old. They have these television shows, though, where the main characters are apathetic, they're dumb, they're depressed, and they are complete losers by design. And then they go around and they don't care about anything, and they don't care about the women, they don't care about their friends, they treat their friends like crap. And then the women in the show are like groveling to them and think, in the show, you know, of course, in real life, it's the complete opposite, but in the show, it makes it look like that's sexy and that's cool. So at a subconscious level, if you watch television, and it's not bad to watch a show here and there, but if you're watching television all the time, you're subconsciously soaking this in like a sponge, whether you know it or not. And you're going to go out and you're going to demonstrate, you're going to project many of those qualities as what you see on television, those cool guys on television that get all the girls, especially.
But of course, the programmers don't want people with vitality, with energy.
No,
that's one of the reasons why they're increasing the diagnoses of ADHD, and that's why they're giving Ritalin to so many, and especially to males.
It's a multi-pronged attack.
Yes.
They want drones of zombies that don't care about anything. And they want to make it cool to not care. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing massive defeats. But at the same time, waking people up and activating their brain receptors, they're coming out and being key winners in this entire fight. Then those people, if they can catch them young enough, they will give them, you know, ADD pills and Ritalin and everything like that and Prozac. But we are ultimately breaking through the programming, and if we can have people realize this, the subconscious will not actively engage in it in such a deep level. So if they realize when they're watching the television, oh my God, this guy's a loser. I don't want to be like this guy at all. I want to go out and be passionate. You know, look at people like Tony Robbins. You know, I'm not a huge fan or anything, but those kind of people go out and they uplift people, and you know, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but overall, those people come out and they're successful. Why? Not even because of training programs, not even because of seminars, because they live passionately. If you are passionate about something, you care about something, you get your health on track, you will win. You will succeed every single time if you're passionate. The sad thing is, the elite are passionate. We have to be 10 times more passionate.
And they're passionate to have a passive, submissive society, a society of zombies. That's really what they're trying to do. Whether they can do it with propaganda on television, modeling the behavior for people, or whether they can do it with chemicals, that's their design. They don't want competition from people.
Stifle all individuals' thought, stifle all passion, all desire and engagement. Have people living at this like low-level zombified state, and you will win. The way to defeat people is to care, even if it's caring about something dumb, even if it's caring about a little activity or your local area, anything. That breeds more passion and overall passion of a nation to get rid of Obama, to impeach Obama, to fight tyranny, to reconquer liberty will meet major success.
Absolutely. Let's take a few calls here. We've got David in Kentucky. He's been hanging on for a while. He wants to talk about the police story. David, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What have you
got?
Doing? Doing good.
Well, basically yesterday I got pulled over, and, you know, the cops wanted to check my papers. Everything came in order, and they followed me for about 2 miles trying to find a reason to pull me over because my license plate say New Mexico, where my dad owns the car, but they said the bracket was blocking New Mexico. Well, they go through their, you know, questioning of me and my fiance, and once they get to the point of saying, is there any narcotics or weapons we should know about? Of course, I said no, because there wasn't. They said, well, do you mind if we take a look? I said, well, I'd like to exercise my right of, I was mistaken at the time. I said, because I was a little nervous, I said, my Fifth Amendment right of illegal search and seizure. Then they started laughing at me and said, do you even know what right you're talking about? I said, it doesn't matter what right I'm talking about. I know I have the right to tell you no to illegal search and seizure. They got completely mad and said, so does that mean you have something to hide? I said, no, I'm exercising my right, and I would like to be on my way. And I had to tell them about 4 times before they finally let me go.
Oh, they did let you go. So they knew perfectly well which Constitution. They knew it was a Fourth Amendment, not the Fifth Amendment. They knew which ones they were going to violate, and they're not going to let you start. But they did. I'm surprised that they actually let you go. That's great. That's great that you stood up for it.
It seems like even standing up a little bit to some of these police officers, they're literally like shaking and afraid. They don't know what to do. But what's interesting, though, is I've never had a police officer ask me if I had narcotics or weapons in the car ever. It seems like if you're assertive with them, but also nice and just say, I actually know my rights, they won't mess with you in many ways. But at the same time, some of the real power-tripping people, if you even mention the Constitution, they'll, like, kill you.
Yeah. That's why it's important to have some film backup. I like the idea of having one of these online subscribing services like Ustream that we use for Dallas. I mean, if you pay for a subscription to some of these things, you can get a live stream, and you can say, you're live right now on television. I've got people who know me, and it's going to be recorded. And that's the key thing, because they can take that phone away from you. So get some kind of subscription service, and there's several of them out there where it actually saves what you recorded as you're doing it. I think that's a key thing. Thanks, David. Let's go to Gray in Washington. Gray? Hey, Gray?
Yeah, here.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, great. I'm an artist living up in Seattle. I spend a lot of time thinking about what we
I think you're on a speakerphone, Gray. Can you take that speakerphone off?
Sure.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm an artist up in Seattle. I spend a lot of time thinking about the tyranny we live under and what we can do about it. I feel most people are unaware of it, but so it's kind of up to us who are aware of it to do something. So I came up with a mantra after much meditation, and that is, I refuse to participate in crimes against myself or others. And I think on religious grounds alone, that's about all we have left. And when they divorce our rights from us, we're dead.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we have to not feed the monster.
That's right. It's very important that we stop and think about it.
We've created this monster as well with our apathy. And I think that, it's time for us to fill up the jails.
That I think is very important what you just said, in the sense that Alex will say to the police, you've got to live in this kind of society that you're building. And when we were talking to Noel Sharkey the other day, I was saying that it's important to make these problems of what robots could be used for, and the way that they could be used to conduct war against populations, for civil unrest. But we need to talk to the engineers. It's not the politicians so much that I think we're going to get anything from, but we need to talk to the people who are actually making this possible, just like talking to the police or talking to the sheriffs and saying, this is a society that you have to live in. Think about the ethical consequences of what you're doing here when you create this robot for DARPA. This isn't simply a science project. This has real-world ethical consequences that are going to be far-reaching for you and everybody that you know.
Not to mention, you're actively participating in this entire beast system when you are apathetic or when you feed into it. For example, when you go, and you go and watch television all day and watch the mainstream news, you're feeding into their advertising market. Or, you're reading the garbage mainstream news on a daily basis, and you're not sharing real alternative media.
That's right.
We can dominate them and completely destroy them, but it requires readers. It requires a massive fan base, which Alex has here on, the Alex Jones Show, and also on Infowars and everything like that. And even, smaller alternative websites are just blowing up. But if you're feeding into the system on a daily basis, or if you're a government worker and you know what you're doing is wrong, I mean, some of the NSA people send emails and say, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I have a family to feed. Well, guess what? I mean, you're feeding, first of all, you're feeding them GMOs and garbage that the government's giving you anyway. But on a secondary basis, you're not going to be feeding them for that much longer if, you continue to destroy this country and run it into the ground. You're part of the beast system. You are actually to blame when you're feeding into it. The only answer is, you're right, the caller's right. The only answer is to not partake in any attacks against ourselves and others. Because guess what? When you're with that system, you're attacking yourself too. On average, I think the biggest targets by the establishment are those that work with them: the police, the military, and the government workers. All three of those categories of people are under complete siege in ways that us, citizens that are in those categories don't even understand. From the actual shots to the testing to the insanity, testing plutonium and syphilis and all this insane stuff, the anthrax shots, they're actually being hit and targeted way more than we even are.
And we've seen the absolute contempt for people in the military from those in power, like that enact that kind of
says
agenda.
They're dogs,
exactly,
to be used in foreign policy. They think
saw
they're
that link.
complete trash, and
Absolutely.
they join in. And I'm not, and,
and they treat them like animals. Yes.
There's a lot of great military listeners and everything like that. They're awesome people. I'm saying you don't get power from joining the system and thinking, oh, well, I'm in the system, so you guys are losers, and I'm just trying to feed my family, and I'm ultimately powerful.
You need to understand that they have nothing but contempt for you. And once they put in the robotic police force, the first people they're going to come after are the police. It's just like when a dictator comes in, the first people he goes for are the congressmen that he wants to get out of. I mean, we've seen that over and over again in history.
Well, not to mention, if you talk to a high-ranking police officer, they'll tell you the veterans, they're afraid of the veterans. The government issues warnings.
Yes.
Because they gave them the training the government gives to the military personnel, and they're afraid to even unleash them on society, because then they say, oh, the veterans, they know how to use this, they know how to create a bomb, they know how to blow up a bridge, whatever, all this stuff. So they demonize them over and over and over again. So first they bring you in and say, yes, you're a great asset to the country. And then they betray you and say, you're the #1 enemy.
That's
and all the police forces have been put on alert to, always watch out for veterans, because they've been trained by the government in the same training, and they're deathly afraid of anyone they've actually trained.
That's right. We see that happening over and over again. Thank you, Gray in Washington, for calling. Let's go to Purple in Arizona. Somebody named Purple. Purple, you there?
Yes.
Hey.
Hi there.
What's on your mind?
In Arivaca, Arizona, we're having a march on the Border Patrol checkpoint. There is a website for people to sign a petition anywhere in the country. Get on this website and sign the petition. There's 2 meeting places for the march, and it's on December 8th, this coming Sunday, in a couple of days. And every Sunday after that, there's going to be a meeting of, what is it called? Just a planning meeting.
So what are you guys standing for exactly? You're against what are you against?
Okay, the Border Patrol checkpoints.
And what are they?
All across, all the way to Texas.
Are they stopping you, suspending the Fourth Amendment in your area? Is that what you're protesting there?
Yes.
What we were talking about before about the Constitution-free zones?
So you're living in a Constitution-free zone, you mean, where you have no Fourth Amendment?
I'm a couple miles from the border, and I'm in Tucson's enveloped.
Well, did you know that the DHS says exactly where you live, that you don't have a Constitution?
I do understand that, and that's what we're going to do. We are going to have our Constitution and march on them and hand them the petition this Sunday.
Well, that's great. I had somebody call when we were doing the show last week, and they were talking about moving against the NSA over the fact they're using 1.7 million gallons of water from a local community. That's something that the 10th Amendment Center is running, and I interviewed them on the Nightly News. Yeah. So check that out. Local activism is very important. We'll be right back.
That's the sound of a .44 Magnum and Trauma Max, a high-tech hybrid Kevlar bulletproof vest from InfidelBodyArmor.com. Will stop it and most pistol rounds. Trauma Max is a major breakthrough in pistol-rated body armor, and prices start at just $170 per insert. More protection, more stopping power, more mobility, and it weighs less than 5 pounds. Get details at InfidelBodyArmor.com. That's INFIDEL BodyArmor.com.
The challenge: creating delicious GMO-free foods with a 25-year shelf life. The solution: Numana Foods, a pioneer in healthy, storable foods. Our meals are GMO and gluten-free, contain no MSG aspartame or high fructose corn syrup, and we never use chemicals or preservatives. Just good, healthy food at great prices. Call us today at 888-597-0775 or visit GMOFreeFoodStorage.com. That's GMOFreeFoodStorage.com.
An e-cig revolution is sweeping across the country. But is yours American-made? Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is. Manufactured in Arkansas with 100% USA-sourced ingredients. And when you buy American, you support local jobs. Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is top quality at an affordable price. The very principle that once drove the American economy. Get great taste with no ash, tar, or smoke. You'll be wondering why you didn't make the change to Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig a long time ago. LeSig.com has everything you need, for beginners to the advanced vaping enthusiast, with a wide variety of hardware, and also imported e-liquid flavors as well. Plus, LeSig smokes the competition with fast, free, same-day shipping, real people customer service, and a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Support our country and become a Vaporite at LeSig.com. or call 870-525-1440. 870-525-1440. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Way up north. Way up north.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined here in studio with Anthony Gucciardi from Storyleak. And we're taking your phone calls. Let's go to Ryan in West Virginia. Ryan.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
What you got?
I'm a college student here at WVU in Morgantown, and a couple callers ago, a guy called in about a cop issue, and this was not what I was originally calling in about, but I was pulled over one night for not having my headlight was out, which was, a reason to be pulled over. The cop insisted that he smelled marijuana in my car, which was not the case. It was a little after midnight. Then he proceeded to say that I was nervous, and whenever he asked to search the car, I said, "Don't you need a warrant?" And he said, "Well, no, I'm just asking for permission." And I said, "Well, you don't have it." I said, "Because you're making this up." And it was like, somebody let the air out of me. He completely looked like he was deflated, looked down. He said, "Well," he said, "I'm going to have to let you go." He says, "Because the dog's eating right now," or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, the cop issue around here is unbelievable.
You mean he didn't tell you the dog was going to eat you? When I went to the NSA and we were arrested, he told me that, I'm lucky that I didn't go up to the actual center there, the little building where there was parked cars and stuff, because the dog would have completely eaten me if I went up to the little area over there. So I'm surprised he didn't tell you that the titanium-toothed dog was going to kill you.
Well, I think it's important to always just stand up for our rights, even if they take us down, even if they ultimately prevail. I mean, just like going through the airport, I just will not cooperate by going through the machines. I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for them, even if it makes it more difficult for me to go through the pat-down. We just have to stand up for our rights. Let's go to, let's go to Craig in New Mexico. Craig?
Hi. I have a police issue also. Back in the spring, I went to the pharmacy and I was carrying my gun because there's always junkies asking people if they have anything good for sale. And an undercover cop was behind me, and who actually, said hi to me and shook my hand at the time, and I didn't realize he was a cop until I was leaving, and the pharmacist told me that I had an undercover police officer behind me when I was leaving for whatever reason. And as I left, he told the cop who I was, who went back to the station and looked me up, found that I had a ticket that I had paid. Everything was cool. He came to my house, said that I had a warrant out for me for not paying the ticket. I showed him the courtroom paperwork and the canceled check. They still hauled me off to jail. They charged me $282 to get out. And they also, when I went to get the money back, they told me that they had $280 worth of fees, and if I wanted to fight it, I had to sign this paperwork, which basically put me on probation.
Wow.
Telling them I had to give them a urine test, I was subject to search and seizure, and this is what they put me through at the station also.
Wow.
And the treatment at the station was unbelievable.
Well, that's what we see over and over again. That's what we see over and over again, Craig, is that they will add additional charges to people. You're talking about them coming after you. There was a businessman just outside of Atlanta. And somebody called the police because there were a lot of indigenous people that were laying out on the sidewalk. They called the police to deal with that. He had a permit to carry a gun. It was his property, and they arrested him for loitering. They didn't want to. He said, "I've got a gun." They told him that he had a gun when they asked, and he said, "I've got a permit for that." They didn't care. They took that. They even towed his car. So it's amazing. We see that over and over again.
Every single time, and then you actually stand up and you win. But it's only by exposing these people are we able to defeat them.
And the way we do that is by supporting the operation here. As I mentioned before, we got a Christmas special for the nightly news for Prison Planet TV, because Prison Planet TV is a lot more than just the nightly news. It's where you'll see me and Gucciardi Jackson, who was on earlier with a Man on the Street interview. You can support that, and right now you can get that as a Christmas special for $39.95. So that's a great deal, and you can share it with other people. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for mineral